because I'm a loser.
He's entertainment.
What?
Oh, he wants me to entertain him. I can entertain you. I have lots of funny stories to tell about being crazy.
The odor of geriatrics is thick in here. Okay, well, we're going to be talking about being a mental patient.
Yes, pretty much. That's what we're going to talk about.
So, believer and modern day miracle, surviving hemophilia, HIV, and hepatitis C.
Yeah, he's a great story. That's a great, I've interviewed him. He's a great interview.
Okay. Morning, everyone. It's Alyce is Curious. Today is Saturday, September 19th, 2015. And we are here with Shelton Bumgardner, and we are going to have a serious conversation-ish about mental illness. So I invite everybody to participate, ask questions on the side. Know that I'm the only one sitting here with Shelton, so I have to also read and have a conversation with him. And we'll probably circle in some other people who are having issues, and we can talk about it. And I am running this lab, so if you're not familiar with me, within the first 5 minutes of this interview, you will be familiar with me. And you'll either stay or you'll go. I hope you'll stay. So with that, Shelton, good morning. How are you?
Good. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good, actually. I'm a little bit tired as shit. So a little bit of the backstory is that Shelton has recently come out to the Blab community that he suffers from some mental illness. And I didn't know. And so I want to talk to him about it. So,
okay.
You're 42 years old. You're a single white male. You're unemployed for how long?
I've had jobs. Just menial jobs.
Okay. So how long has it been since you've had a job?
Well, a real job, about 3 or 4 years.
Okay. So tell me how it feels to be telling these people that you have a challenge.
I'm an extreme extrovert, and I don't mind. I'm the kind of person that I know that one day I will drop dead and go into the blackness. And I might as well while I'm alive, try to benefit somebody somewhere, because maybe somebody will feel more comfortable if I tell my plight. I mean, it's sort of like I don't know. It's just something I don't talk about because it's a conversation killer.
Okay, so wait. So on the one hand, you're saying you don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, you're saying, but I want to because I want to help other people. Is that you're saying?
Yes.
So why did you decide to talk about it now? You've been blessed.
Because I feel as though I have reached a point of notoriety enough in the Blab community that enough people know me that it's not like it's not going to hurt me. Like I feel like I'm amongst friends, so I feel like I can.
So what you're saying is, when you meet someone, you'd be too judged, and you don't want to tell someone that you just met that you have bipolar disorder, because then they'll be like, "Oh my God, you're too batshit crazy. I don't want to hang out with you. You're not my friend." Okay, so it is a secret for you.
Yes, it is.
And it carries some shame.
Yes, it does.
And you're embarrassed.
Yes, I am.
And do you think that this is a choice that you're making to be bipolar, or do you think it's something that's
it's my genes? Well, Alyce, I will tell you, my mother also suffered from some sort of mental illness. Bipolar disorder is that I suffer from a condition whereby I get extreme highs and extreme lows.
Isn't that manic depressive?
No, well, bipolar disorder is similar to manic depressive. I think it's almost the same. Maybe it's synonymous, but I think maybe it's it's a clinical definition of the same condition, if that makes any difference.
Okay. So Roxanne says that bipolar is not crazy, that it's you don't hear voices that are not your own, correct? No, you did.
Oh, not now. No, I have in the past, but not now.
So there was some psychosis. It wasn't just bipolar. It was bipolar disorder with some psychosis.
Yes, I've had two mental breakdowns.
Okay. So so Strive, I don't know your real name, his mother-in-law, my wife's mother, his mother-in-law is bipolar and manic depressive. So you're going through your, hi Joe, so you're going through your 20s and everything's fine, you're chill.
No, no, I had some issues in my 20s.
When did that start?
Nothing. It started on my 28th birthday when 28th year when I had a very bad job situation, but I had depression for maybe a year or two, like severe depression, like so severe that it was severe depression.
Did you get out of your bed?
Excuse me? Oh, I was high functioning depressive. Like I could just barely function enough to go to work.
But you did work, you did leave your house.
Yes, yes.
And so when you were about 25, you became...
No, 28.
So when you were 28, you became depressed?
Yes.
Okay, and then what happened?
Well,
so you're sad.
I wasn't just sad, I was depressed. And then about when I was in my early 30s, I worked at a newspaper and I was a drunk.
Now, how drunk were you?
I was a high functioning alcoholic. I self-medicated.
So now you're not on any meds. You're not on any mental patient meds.
At that point, correct.
How much were you drinking? Like you were waking up and drinking, or what were you doing?
No, I wasn't that kind of drunk. I managed it. Like I would manage the consumption, but I didn't work. I didn't drink on Sundays and Mondays, but from Tuesday night to say Monday to Saturday night, I drank like all the time.
Blackout drunk?
No, that was not until Korea.
Okay. So you're still living in the States. Okay. So you go from being depressed and you're like, oh my God, if I get a little bit shit-faced all the time, I don't feel like this.
Yeah, I was self-medicating.
Okay. So then tell me, so you still continue to feel sad and then there's nothing, I mean, you have a break from reality. And when was that?
That happened in Korea. I mean, yeah, twice.
And the first time, how old were you?
It happened on my 35th birthday.
So there's 7 years later, there's a significant amount of time where you're just sad.
Well, I stopped being depressed. I was just like, I was fine. Like I was depressed for maybe 2 years and then I gradually got out of it.
So you were sad, you were depressed until you were 30 and then you got out of it, but you were still a drunk.
Yeah, I was drunk. Yeah.
Until you were 35.
No, at least I drank the whole time I was a drunk. Like I didn't stop drinking until about like 3 or 4 years ago. Now I don't. I drink very rarely.
Okay, but you're drinking consistently till you're 35, but your life is basically normal.
Yeah, other than the large amounts of alcohol I was consuming.
Right. So what happened the day before you had a break?
The day before, I moved to Haebonchon, which is a small community in Seoul, South Korea, and I thought I was going to start a new life. I thought I was going to put the magazine behind me, and I was going to start a new life and put Annie behind me. And I was in love with a woman named Venus, and I thought I was going to hook up with Venus, and we were going to have a wonderful relationship. And that
Who's Venus?
Her name is Venus, and she is Singaporean, and she's half Singaporean, half Australian. And I'm in love with her, and I will never see her again. She lives in Phuket, Thailand.
Okay, so you had a relationship with this person, Amy.
Annie.
What?
Her name is Annie.
Annie. And did you get fired from the magazine, or what happened?
No, I started the magazine, and we went from a little like a photocopy, 200 copies to 3,000 full color. Me and Annie together. And then what happened was I turned into a raging asshole. Like I was a humongous, like Steve Jobs asshole. And they fired, I just stopped participating in the magazine and it came back about.
So you were too obnoxious to work with?
Yes. I was obnoxious.
So they removed you and it kept going?
Yes.
So you lost the magazine?
Yes.
And you lost Annie?
Yes.
And then how long between that and the day before your disconnect? How long was
that? Happened it was about a year.
Okay, so for a year, what did you do?
Nothing. I was in neutral. Like I was so angry about what happened with the magazine that I would go to work, which is working for a newspaper for children learning English. I would sit at my computer, I would listen to Radiohead songs, and I would just simmer in my fury.
So you were a candidate to go postal.
Yeah, I was really angry.
So at one time, you could have even been a danger to.
No, I was never a danger to myself or others. I was just angry.
So when you were simmering, you weren't as angry. You didn't have a plan to
No,
hurt.
I didn't. No. If I would have killed myself. I didn't have a plan to hurt anybody.
So you're simmering for a year, and the day before you have a breakdown, what happens that day?
I moved to Haybon-Chon, and
That day you moved.
Yeah, like literally that night.
And you moved so you'd have and you got another job, right?
Yes.
And you were interested in another woman?
Yeah.
So life was good.
Yeah. Well, it was better.
It was better than it was for the last year when you were leaving.
Yes.
And so that night comes and you moved into your new place and you have a new job and a new chick and everything's doing well. And then what happens that night?
Well, it wasn't. It was the next day.
So what happened the next morning?
The next morning, I told you the story. Well, I'll tell you the story again. I got a new refrigerator, and for some reason, the guy that he was a Korean guy. He didn't know any English. I was working with him to get the refrigerator out of the truck, and he said die. And then he moved the refrigerator to my apartment, my kitchen, and I noticed I was on my bed because my kitchen was like right here, and my bed was right next to it. I noticed my bedroom was right next to it. I was sitting on my bed, and I noticed that the shadow from my refrigerator onto my bedroom door looked like the tuck mule. I'm going to do the story time, I guess. And then what happened was I got up and I went to my refrigerator, my black refrigerator, which would look like the monolith from 2001: Space Odyssey.
Mm.
And I went up to it and I touched it with the pads of my fingers, and I snapped, like bam, like boing, like almost you could almost see the springs pop out of my brain.
Did you feel anything physically?
It was a very abrupt sensation. It was a very abrupt sensation.
Was it a physical sensation, like in your head or in your feet? Or
it was like an explosion. Like that's the best thing I can think of. It was an explosion in my brain, and I snapped. I literally snapped.
Does it have a color or a smell?
It had a sound.
Like what?
Like it was like a low hum.
And so, are you aware that this is happening, or are you not aware?
Well, what happened was when I snapped, I started to bounce around in my apartment like a marionette, and I screamed at the top of my lungs. They all know. I don't know what that means.
So, but are you aware? Like, okay, so there's a point when you're a person and you're drunk, and you're like, "Oh my God, I'm acting like such a fucking idiot," and I know it, but I can't control myself because I'm so drunk.
No,
and then
I couldn't control myself. It was.
There's a point after that where you don't even know what you're doing. You don't know that you're acting like an asshole and you're not cognizant of what's happening.
There was a cognitive disconnect. Like I was like looking at myself do it.
So you didn't know what was happening. Like you know the story, but at that moment you weren't aware that you.
Oh no, I was cognizant, but I did not have control over my body.
Okay, but were you aware that something was wrong? Were you afraid?
Yeah, I was. No, it was actually kind of fun.
Okay, so it's like dropping acid.
Yeah, it was like all natural acid. That's the best comparison I can give it.
Okay, so Roxanne said, so like an out of body experience where you're like sitting there like, holy shit, this is pretty fucking cool. Like my refrigerator is like 1001 Space Odyssey or whatever. And I'm so lucky that I'm here. This is
Yeah,
great.
it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Okay. So then,
I have not tried acid, but it probably would be a lot like what happened to me.
so then that's that day.
Yep.
What happens? Like, when is the next thing that happens? Like, is it?
See, that's the problem is I don't really remember because I was so out of it. The next few days I pretty much just ran around the streets of Seoul and played in the traffic.
Okay. So then one of your friends or a cop pulls you over and takes you into an institution.
No, what happened was I went to the voices in my head told me to go to Busan. I do not know why.
Go to where?
Busan to Busan. Busan is the third largest city of Korea. It's on the other side of the country. It's a port city, and I went to Seoul Station, and I didn't even buy a ticket. I just gave them all my money, and because I was so out of it, I just gave them the money.
So wait, were the voices male or female, or did they not have a gender?
I think they were male, but they didn't really have a gender.
Was there more than one?
Yes.
With different sounds?
Yeah, they had different voices.
Like there was a guy like this, and then there was a guy like this, and then there was a guy like...
Sort of. It was. They had more different personalities.
So, did you have a conversation with them, or did they just talk to you?
No, I had conversations with them. They were quite entertaining.
Okay, so the refrigerator happens,
Yep.
and right at that moment, you have a break, and you start hearing voices and having conversations with them, and you're not aware that this is not okay.
Yeah, I was aware that this was not okay. And it was like I said, it was like dropping acid. I've never dropped acid, but it's sort of like that.
So like Joe just said, multiple personality disorder, but you didn't act like you didn't act differently. You just heard something. So like
Yeah.
being schizophrenic.
Yeah, I was kind of in that specific instance. It was similar to being schizophrenic. I also believe that I wasn't alive. Like
Alive.
I had all kinds of bad stuff happening to me. Like I thought I was dead. Like I literally thought I was dead. I was like, I'm dead. I can do whatever I want to. I'm dead.
That's got to be a pretty powerful feeling, though. Really, actually.
Yeah, that's why I was playing in traffic because I thought I was dead.
Right, which makes sense because you're already dead, so it really doesn't matter. Right?
Yes.
You can't die twice.
Yeah, I was already dead, so why not?
So okay, so then who puts you in a mental institution?
Well, what happened was my friend Kari, she posted on Facebook, "Where is Shelton?"
Okay.
And my sister found out about this. My sister saw that, and that is oh, the phone's ringing. I'm sorry.
You should probably get it because
No.
I'd like. Is the phone really ringing? Let me hear it.
Just wait a second. Let it ring. So my sister saw that, and I don't honestly remember what happened. I don't remember the specifics of it because I was so out of it. Are you there?
I am.
Okay.
I wanted to look like a statue for a second.
Okay.
I'm gonna see how long I
Okay.
can hold my breath.
So
Yeah.
I don't honestly remember what happened. It was really wild. I was so out of it. I don't remember what happened. I know.
Who physically drove you to the institution?
No. Okay, I got it wrong. The first time I lost my mind, I got home myself. I forgot about that. I'm sorry. I got confused. Okay, the first time I lost my mind, I absolutely wanted to go home.
Home to America.
Yes, I absolutely wanted to go home. 100%. Absolutely.
Okay.
So what happened was I sold my camera that I had.
Okay.
And I went to Japan.
How'd you get to Japan? Or is it not far?
I flew from Japan to Korea.
Okay.
And then I proceeded to wander the streets of wander the halls of the of the Tokyo airport. And then what happened? This is when my sister saved my ass because she paid for my ticket home. Okay, so that was the first time.
So you're hearing voices. You're wandering around Korea. You get on a plane. Obviously, this is before 9/11.
Yeah, no, this is after 9/11. But I faked it well enough to get on the plane.
Wow. See, that's why I'm afraid to fly. Just so you know,
Okay.
It's exactly the reason. Okay, Julie, I'll ask it in a second. So you go home. You had the wherewithal to go home.
Yeah.
And so you get home. Your sister sees you. She picks you up at the airport.
And this is where it gets interesting, because what happened was there was a time between the time I got home and when I went to the mental institution the first time, where I was like acting really weird. Like I was just off my rocker. And what happened was
really weird, man.
Well, I was like wandering the neighborhood. Like I went to the side of the street, and I stood like this. Well, you can't see, but I like went to the side of the major road near my house, and like stood on the curb and just leaned into the traffic. And the police like got me and said, "Why are you doing that?" So that was kind of weird.
And so how long from when you got home from Japan?
Oh, okay. So this is where it gets even more interesting.
Just tell me.
It was a few weeks.
How many?
Maybe 2, 3.
So 2 or 3 weeks, you're home with your sister, and you're just either she sees you doing things or the police see you doing things. But there's definitely an awareness that something's not right.
Yeah, and my sister went on vacation or something, and while she was away, I totally, completely, utterly lost my mind. Like, I was psychotic, and I like and what happened was she came home from her vacation, and let's just say I was doing something like The Exorcist, kind of like
what?
It's difficult for me to explain how scary it was. I was like with a demon, I was possessed by a demon almost. I was like.
Was it scary to you or just to the people that were?
It was scary to everybody. it was scary to everybody.
So wait, so not only are you hearing voices, but you're speaking in a different voice. Is that what you're saying?
I was making strange noises.
Okay.
I was like, okay, so this is okay. Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, what happened was my sister takes me to the local community health center, and they get a judge. I get in front of a judge, and he essentially says like, "So, Mr. Bumgarner, tell us about what the problem is." And I just went, boom, and that's it. That's the last memory I had before I woke up in the mental institution.
So your sister put you on like a 5150 and commit. So it was an involuntary.
Yes, it was involuntary, but it wasn't my sister. It was just the judge, because the judge saw me and said, "He's obviously."
Who put you in front of the judge?
My sister. But what else is she gonna do?
I don't disagree. So your sister, because you wouldn't go. Did she not say to you, "Hey"?
I wasn't cognizant. It wasn't a voluntary kind of situation where it wasn't like. She couldn't have asked me because I was,
Okay, and she's scared to death.
Yes.
Right. And she can't. This is way above her skill set.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So why couldn't you just walk into an institution with her? Why did you have to go before a judge?
I don't know. Like it was very scary, chaotic. I don't know the details of why that happened. I just know that. So
you go to the institution, and when do you realize you're in the institution?
I woke up. I think they strapped me down and they injected. I woke up in the back of a cop car.
Okay.
And I was having visions. And
do you remember?
I thought I was on my way to see Annie. And this is where it gets a little emotional.
Okay.
I thought I was going to see Annie.
Annie is the woman that you were with when the paper fell apart.
Yes, I thought I was on my way to see Annie. I thought I had magically appeared near her house, and I was going to go see her.
And then you realize you looked around and you're like, I'm nowhere near Annie.
Yes, exactly.
And what did you think?
Well, I thought I was being inhabited by the souls of famous people.
Okay, so you're still having psychosis, right?
Yes, I'm still having psychosis.
And so you realize that you're not. So it moved. Is it the next morning that you realize that you're not with Annie?
I woke up in the insane asylum, and it was like there was like a front area and then the inside area, and they sort of strapped me down and got me sedated, and then they put me into the actual facility.
Okay. So the next morning, or whenever it was
yeah,
a time when you go to sleep and you wake up and you're like, oh my God, this is so great. I'm going to see Annie.
No, I at that point I didn't think I was going to see Annie. By the time I woke up, I was okay. Like I was like better.
Okay, so the night before when you first got there, you thought, this is great. We're on our way to go see Annie.
What happened was when I woke up in the back of the cop car.
So you're driving to see Annie. You're in a cab or whatever. And we're all
I thought they were taking me to see Annie. I thought that was.
When did you realize it wasn't happening?
Well, when I jumped out of the cop car and proceeded to accost them, and they were like,
what city are you in?
Richmond, Virginia.
If you were a black guy, you would have been shot, just so you know.
Probably.
Okay, so you jump out of the cop car, you start to run?
No, I was just abusive. Like I was struggling.
Okay. So they restrain you and they put you back in the cop car?
No, they restrained me and put me into the facility.
Well, they drove you there, right?
Yes.
Okay. So then you wake up the next day and you realize, holy shit, I'm in a mental institution, but they gave you something so you're aware that you're in a mental institution, and we have issues right now. You're still hearing the voices.
They were subsiding.
Okay. And you're tired because they have you on whatever they have you to keep you in a stable position.
Yeah, I was feeling pretty good. I wasn't like my usual self.
You're living the dream.
I was living the dream.
So then you go through, I imagine, 5,000 different interviews.
No. I just had my regular interview with my psychiatrist, and I had, I mean, and I had some very interesting conversations with people. It was. I didn't have lots of interviews. I mean, it was pretty sedate.
Okay, so let me just recap for anybody who just joined. I'm Alyce is Curious. I'm here with Shelton. We're talking about mental illness, and we're going to talk to Shelton for a little while longer about his particular story, which is fascinating because it's pretty extreme. It's not like, well, I'm a little sad or I feel a little anxious. Not that those are not legitimate. But this is almost like an extreme thing. And then in a little while, we'll bring in people that have other mental disorder. That's true. I should lock the seat. Kevin, I'm going to kick you out and I'm going to lock the seat. So in a little while, what I'll do is I'm going to open it up so other people can come in and have an open conversation about their experiences. I don't want to hear everybody's story exactly because it'll take too long. But we'll get to like how it's perceived and So that's where we're at. So if you would tell Little Bird, because this is kind of important, that we have an open and honest conversation about mental illness. And I'm grateful to Shelton for being so open and honest, because you know what, it's really hard. And people are shamed and people feel bad and people are embarrassed. And we're not really very accepting of mental illness on this planet. And many people don't think that it's real. And, if you just think happy thoughts, then, everything will be okay. So Shelton, in his mid-30s, there were some issues when he was about 28. In his mid-30s, he had a break from reality and was, I would say, probably, without being a doctor, a bit of a paranoid schizophrenic a little bit. And
in that situation.
In that situation, right then, at that moment.
I had symptoms similar to it.
Right. In that moment, it was a situation. You don't have to be that way forever. So
Yeah, in that specific instance, I was.
it was a situational thing. It wasn't this is what's happening forever. And it's like, so right now we're at the place where Shelton is committed for the first time, and now we're going to go forward. And so, how long were you in the institution the first time?
A few weeks.
Okay.
They couldn't keep me like that. Like that was the situation. They couldn't keep me. They couldn't keep me there. They couldn't keep me. They couldn't keep me forever. So it was like 3 weeks or something, and they said, okay, we got to let him go. So they let me go.
You asked to be let go, or
nope?
Oh, it was like an insurance thing or something like that.
Something like that. Something where they couldn't keep me there forever.
Were you ready to go?
Yeah, I was ready to go.
You were ready to go. So is it a mental institution just like you think, like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, or is it nicer than that?
That's a good question. And if the microwave happens to start and knocks me off, I'll come back. What is a mental institution? Mental institution it's pretty sedate. The people are nice. They're very friendly, at least they were to me. There was no Nurse Ratched. And it's just scary. It's just really scary.
What are there paintings on the walls, or is it more like a prison?
It's a pleasant enough place. There's paintings on the walls. It's just it was just one hallway when I was there.
So you're not in a state facility?
No, it was a state facility.
But it was nice.
Yeah, it was nice.
Okay. So Julie says she's worked at a psych hospital for 4 years now, and it's not a place people love to be, but for some it's better than their home.
Yeah, except for you can't get out.
Does your personal door lock at night?
No.
No. So in your particular situation, I'm sure there are places like Julie saying that yes, there's a lockdown, but where you were on your floor, people were free to come.
There was just one floor, and the exit door is locked. That's the issue.
But you can leave your room.
Yes.
And go into someone else's room at will.
Yes.
Okay. So you're there for a few weeks and you get out and you feel pretty good. When was the next time?
Next time was it was a sucker punch because I just had stopped taking my medication and I was in Seoul and I was like, yay! And this is the second time I thought I was going to hook up with Venus. Yay!
Okay, so let me get you there. So how long after the first time did you go back to Seoul?
Well, I went back to Busan. I went to Busan a few months after I came home. And then I lost my job, and I went to Thailand, went to Southeast Asia, hung out for a while, and then came back to Seoul, and I had a job waiting for me, and
was the best course of action to let you go overseas?
Probably not.
Okay, but you were going to do what you were going to do because you're a man. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And that was your decision. Did anybody in your family say, you know what, maybe you shouldn't go?
They probably thought it.
So nobody had a conversation with you?
Nope.
And so while you're going through this situation, you have a sister, and who else is in your family?
My brother.
Do you have parents at this time?
My mother is dead. My father is alive.
So you have a father and a mother, and a father, a sister, and a brother, and nobody's talking about this out loud?
No, not really.
Okay. So then you go back to Seoul. You get back there via 50 other countries that I don't know. And then, so how long is it between when you're
about a year
in the States to when you're in Seoul? Is about a year?
Well, like I said, I was in Busan for a few months.
Right.
It was like 3 or 4 months that I was in the States, and then I went to Busan for maybe 6 or 7 months, and then I moved from Busan to Seoul.
Okay. And so then the night before you had your disconnect, what happened?
Well, in that particular thing, it was more gradual. I started to like hear voices and stuff, and I saw colors that were not there, and a picture of Einstein winked at me on my computer screen. And then,
you were taking your meds for how long?
No, I had stopped taking my meds.
Right. How long were you taking your meds before you decided that you were cured and you stopped taking them?
Just a few months. I was just like, fuck this, man. I don't need these medications.
I got this, right? I could do this. I can handle it, which happens all the time, actually. So a few months, you've got it together, you stop taking your meds, and slowly your symptoms come back.
Yep.
Okay, so the day before you were institutionalized, what did you do?
I was insane. I was wandering around. That was when I was wandering around the streets of Seoul. Uh, I was playing in traffic, and I was. Oh, one fun thing I was doing is would buy something to drink, and then because I had some money that I had been given, I would buy something to drink and then smash it on the ground. Like I would buy like glass bottles, drink something, and then go smack and just like it was scaring people because the glass was going everywhere. I would like buy like a bottle of liquor or something, and then just drink a little bit of it and smash it on the
You're a
ground.
crazy person in the street.
Yeah, I was a crazy person on the street.
How long were you doing that?
A few days, but I have to give you one particular poignant story. I lost my glasses, and somebody that I knew was extremely kind to me, and she bought me glasses while I was insane.
So, from the time you stopped taking your meds to the time that you start to be insane is how long?
A few months.
Oh, okay. Good morning. We're talking about mental illness. Can I have a kiss? And then, get out.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's just talk about 12 and then go to sleep until because I understand how you feel now.
You do, right? It's sick. Yeah.
Really.
It's really annoying. I apologize. So,
It's okay.
So a few months. So the effects last for a few months where you're still okay.
Yep.
Then about 4 days before you get institutionalized, you're really batshit crazy.
Yes.
And you are you aware that you're doing it or no?
Again, it was like taking acid.
So you're aware, but it's not a bad thing.
Nope, it was fun.
It was fun.
Yep.
So who then who drove you to the institution? Was it you?
I don't know. Like all I know is I ended up I was so out of it. A representative from the U.S. government was there with me, and then they definitely did strap me down, and like I was like in not a straitjacket, but I was strapped down. I was strapped down to
a gurney.
Yes.
Okay. So you wake up. Do you wake up or you?
I woke up and I was in a bed and I looked at the wall. I tapped it 3 times and I said, "This is real." That's what I said.
So they had given you enough medication for you to now be aware that, oh fuck, I'm right here again.
Yep.
And how did that feel? Restraints. Thank you, Julie.
Well, I was out of restraints by that point.
No, Julie said we were trying to figure out what they're called because you and I share like no brain matter. So.
Yeah. Anyway, I was quite embarrassed. I was.
You're embarrassed.
I was embarrassed.
Who were you embarrassed in front of?
Myself. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed of myself. I was embarrassed of myself.
Were you aware at that point that you were sick again because you stopped taking your meds?
Yeah, I knew that's. I knew why. I knew that's why. So, guys.
I apologize.
It's okay.
So even though you know you're a mental patient, and even though you know it's not your fault, you still have shame.
Yes.
And are you scared?
Yes.
What were you scared
I'm
of?
afraid it'll happen again.
Well, it did just happen again.
I know. I'm saying I'm afraid it'll happen again, like a
You're afraid
third
it'll
time.
happen again.
Yeah,
So how long were you institutionalized the second time?
a few months, like a month and a half, maybe.
Oh, so that's a long time.
Yeah,
Was it the same kind of a nicer facility?
it was a nice facility. Yeah, it was quite nice.
Did you think that the people around you were just crazy and what the hell am I doing here?
No, it was just, we just took our medicine, and they didn't speak my language. I didn't speak their language, and I just wanted to get out of that situation. And the only guy that spoke my language, the only guy that spoke English was a guy who thought his parents were lizard people from Mars.
Wait a second. So you're in a mental institution in Korea with
Yep.
a staff and a population that don't speak English, except for a guy who thought his parents were from Mars and they were lizards?
Yep. Pretty much. That's exactly what happened.
So that can make you crazy in itself, right? I mean, that's
It
like
was kind of scary. But I had experience in Seoul already. Like, that was pretty typical. I knew what to do. I knew how to handle that.
Did you have somebody representing you?
No?
No, you were just there by yourself.
Yep.
And so you have no Annie. You go back there. You have no Annie. Do you have any friends that are helping you, visiting you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, another poignant moment was that Kari, who had saved my life, came to the institution with her husband or boyfriend, fiance, and she listened to me, and she put her hand on his, and I knew she cared. She knew she cared when she put her hand on her boyfriend's and talked to me. I knew she cared. That meant a lot.
So tell me why that was so. She put her hand on her boyfriend's hand, not on your hand, correct?
Yep.
And so tell me why you felt that meant that she cared. She cared about you.
Yeah, I just knew her well enough that she was like telling her I knew that they cared about me, that both of them cared.
And how did that feel? Did you feel often that you were by yourself?
Yes.
So you were not alone anymore.
Yes, when they were with me, I did not feel alone.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a 5-year-old white girl that I think I might put up for adoption.
Okay.
Well, we have a captive audience. So while she's here, because I don't really want her to be here, if you could tweet this out, Alyce is curious. We're talking to Sheldon about mental illness. I'm going to open up the seats in a couple minutes. People are very grateful to you for sharing your story, as am I, Sheldon. I am very familiar with mental illness. It runs in my family. And it's not talked about enough like this, where, people are saying, because I call you a mental patient. I take some medicine. I call my therapist my mental patient doctor, because that it would just be like if I had a heart doctor, I would be a heart patient. So you can say whatever you want. It's not meant to be offensive to anybody, but so, we're having an honest and open conversation about Sheldon's experience. And then I'd like to bring some other people in. Maybe we'll talk about, how we treat people with mental illness, and whether it should be a secret or I don't know. So anyway, okay. So now you're in the institution, you're in Seoul, and then you're released and you're ready to get out of there.
They kicked me out of the country, in essence. That's why I often will say I've been thrown out of better countries than this.
Wait, why did they throw you out of the country?
Because you have to have a job to stay in the country. And I had lost my job, and they said, Mr. Baumgartner, we love you, but you don't have a job. You don't have a work visa, so goodbye.
Do they actually have an immigration policy?
Yeah.
We should actually have a conversation with them. Hold on one second. So how did they know you didn't have a job? Like, how did they track you? I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, Korea is a small country. There are a few expats, and I was one of them that did not have a job. So they said,
that's amazing. I'm actually shocked because we don't have that system. So
we're a big country.
Yeah, that's true. So you go back to the States because you're kicked out.
Yep.
And then what happened?
And nothing for several years, for lots of years. I went back to Seoul briefly, but it was uneventful.
Wait, but where do you go? You come back to the States and where do you go? Home to?
Right now, where I am.
Home to, where are you right now?
Richmond, Virginia.
And you live with who?
My sister.
And how old is she?
She is 52 years old.
Oh, she's significantly older than you are.
Yes, she is.
My kids are 9 years apart. Thank you. Can you shut the door when you're done, honey? I'll be done in a few minutes. Thank you. I love you. Brought to you by Starbucks. Shut my door, sweetheart. And go get something to eat. Go get some cheese. Yeah, cheese. 3. Yeah, whatever. Perfect. Yep. Correct. Good math skills. So, okay, so if everybody would tweet this for me, and so then when we're ready to open up, we'll have some more people to come in. Da, 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 da. Okay, so now you go to your sister's house. What year is it?
2009, I think.
2009.
Yeah.
And you get a therapist in the States, and they put you on a cocktail.
Yep.
Is it the same cocktail you're on today?
Yep.
And you have not been able to hold a job because why?
It's not so much hold. Well, not so much hold a job is I just don't want to look for one because I have zero motivation.
Are you agoraphobic or no?
No, I go outside all the time.
Okay. So your sister supports you completely?
No, she supports me zero other than giving me money. They even give me food.
So how do you support yourself if you don't work?
I have a little job that that pays doesn't pay me on time, but it does pay me enough to usually pay my bills. But recently my bills have gotten worse, so I need to get a new job.
Well, okay, so here we are today,
Okay.
and now you found, and this is kind of interesting. So you found Blab.
Yep.
And how did that? We should Blab them or whatever. Tell them, how has Blab changed anything for you, or hasn't it?
It's changed a lot because I have a community and I'm using a skill set that I developed in Seoul, and I get to talk all the time, and I like being sort of a man about town, if you will. And it's a lot of fun. Just unfortunately, I'm not being nearly as progressive as I should, proactive as I should when it comes to looking for a job. That's it.
So, have you talked to anybody else outside of Blab about this?
Very rarely.
Very rarely. So, what made you tell the internet where this can be posted ad nauseum?
Yes. Yes, that's very true. I don't give a shit. I'm like, that's just not my nature. Sorry.
Well, actually, your nature is to give a shit because you didn't tell anybody until you're in theory.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is because I love the Blab community, I feel safe enough in the Blab community, and it's just posted on the internet. Go for it. I don't care. It's just, I guess what I'm saying, I don't like this. I don't know how to tell people without kind of killing the vibe.
So, well, obviously it wouldn't be like, hi, my name is Shelton and I'm a mental patient, right? Because is it even necessary to tell people?
That's why I generally don't. That's why I don't generally tell people. Because I sort of wanted to see what you could do, Alyce.
Yes, you can have whatever you want. Go eat. Just go eat some grapes. God's sake. So just like I wouldn't go up to somebody and say, hi, my name is Alyce and I have diabetes, or it might come in conversation, but I don't know that I would tell somebody a a physical ailment that I have, do you think that you need to tell people?
No, I don't need to tell people. Only person I need to tell is a prospective mate. That's sort of important.
Okay. And do you think that, what do you think you'll gain or somebody will gain by you telling your story here today?
I don't know. Maybe nothing. But I wanted the blab community to hear my story, and hopefully someone might get something out.
Hopefully someone will what?
Hopefully someone will get something out of it.
Okay, what about you? What are you looking to get out of it?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I have a chance to tell my story. That's it.
That's it. You don't.
I like to tell stories.
Okay, and I appreciate that, and that's nice that you're a storyteller, but you want something. I would like people to understand me better.
I would like people to understand why it's so difficult for me to look for a job.
Okay, so you felt the need because everybody's on your ass. Why aren't you getting up? Why aren't you getting out? To explain why I'm not getting up and out and getting a job.
Yes.
So you felt you had to defend yourself.
Sort of, yeah. I wanted to give an explanation, if nothing else.
Does this have anything to do with your shirts at all?
That's just laziness.
Oh, okay. So is that part of it though?
Yeah, I guess so. It's a quirk.
You just don't give a shit. Hold on.
Yeah, I don't care.
What's the matter?
Yeah, probably.
Go take an Advil. One. Okay. I'll be out of here in a little while. I'm freaking starving. Did you have Frosted Flakes with protein? Oh, okay. Shut the door. I buy Frosted Flakes with protein because I think it's good for my kids. We don't buy the original Frosted Flakes. I apologize that I actually have a life going on, and I'm not trying.
No, you have a life. That's fine.
Woohoo! Okay. So, Roxanne asked 88 ADA.
Yeah, I could do that, but I don't know. There's some pride. I don't want to go on disability. You know,
Why?
Because I'm not that crazy. I mean, I can have a job. I mean, I got skills, as they say. So it's difficult for me to swallow my pride enough to do it. I've got the application for disability right there in front of me, but I just haven't done it.
So, whoa. If you, let's say, I don't know, whatever, you had something that you didn't consider a choice. So what you're saying to me right now is I have a choice to look for a job and I'm choosing not to.
Yeah, and I just don't have any motivation.
But you also told me that you felt like you had no motivation because of the cocktail you're on to help with mental illness.
Yes.
So wouldn't that relinquish some of your responsibility? But yeah.
Yes, it does, but I have a responsibility to myself and others to get a job.
Right, but before that, you have a responsibility to go to the doctor and get a different cocktail, right? One that will stop, one that will help.
You don't realize my sister would totally freak the fuck out if I tried that. Because she's very happy with things are okay with my medication. She likes that things are fixed, settled, and if I got new medication, then that would upset the apple cart.
Okay, so for your sister, it's comfortable because she doesn't want you going batshit crazy again. So let's just everybody stay calm. Everybody's out of the pool, right?
Yep.
We're all good.
Yep.
So, does that work for you?
I have no say in the matter. My sister is so gracious to me that I don't feel I can really argue with her.
Your sister's so what?
Gracious.
What does that mean?
Kind.
So, you have an obligation to your sister because
Yes.
She doesn't financially take care of you though, correct?
No, she does not.
But she's nice to you.
Yes.
So because she's nice to you, then she controls your planet?
No, my sister is extremely gracious and extremely kind, and I do not feel like I can. I don't want to cause any trouble because to try to change my cocktail would be definitely causing trouble because what if it doesn't work?
Sure.
What if
Sure. No, I totally get that. I actually recently went off of a medicine called Cymbalta, and it's actually they have a class action lawsuit against them, and it was one of the most horrible experiences I've ever had. It was 10 days of. I actually was talking like this. It was crazy. I could hear myself talking like that, but I couldn't control I was sick. It was really a horrible experience. And that was a medicine to help me, not be a mental patient. But it really wasn't that helpful. And it was hard to get off. So I definitely understand because you have to wean yourself off of something to go then on something else so they know what works and what doesn't. So that would be a challenge. So do you feel
a roof over my head.
Okay. So Joe asked, do you think you feel your sister hinders you in some ways? I mean, I know that she's helpful. She's a good person. So
the only way she hinders me is that she does not want me to get a job like on the other side of town. Like she wants me to stay on. She doesn't want me to move out in a sense, because she doesn't want to have that fear that I will lose my mind again. And she has to take care of me. She wants to sort of keep her eye on me.
Does she think that her particular house is keeping you sane?
No, she just wants to keep an eye on me. I mean, if you I'm scared to leave the shit out of that woman.
Oh, I absolutely understand that. So, and I understand, like Nick just said, I think Sheldon's just trying to avoid hurting his sister's feelings, but I think that Sheldon is hurting her feelings just by not trying as hard to get a job. But
exactly.
Well,
exactly.
She doesn't even want. I would imagine she doesn't want you to work.
No, she wants me to work. She wants me to work.
Even though you're not home.
Yeah. She wants me to work so I can pay my bills, and that's just.
Move out?
Yes, but yet she's ambivalent about it.
No, she's not ambivalent about it. She's very specific.
Well, she's ambivalent because she wants to sort of keep an eye on me, but yet she wants me to be totally financially self-sufficient.
And are you kind of like in a comfort zone where you're just like, you know what?
Yes.
I'm 42, and in the next 40 years here, I'll die of natural causes at my sister's house, and I'm good with that.
Yes, I'm afraid that that's going to happen. That's why I need to get a job and move out.
Okay, so, and you're also aware that the meds you're on are. Now, are you sure the meds you're on are preventing you from doing it, or are you just in a place where you're like, I don't give a fuck?
I don't give a fuck. I just work on the assumption that's what.
So you don't know it's your meds. You don't know that you're not just being a lazy ass.
It's just eerie that I've been not doing anything for about 3 or 4 years, which is exactly the amount of time I've been on meds.
Okay. And I imagine it's also scary to put yourself out there because when you're out and you're about and you're doing stuff is when this stuff happens.
No, I'm not afraid of that. It's because I know the medication will prevent that. My medications are Depakote and Abilify.
Right, and you said that they were working.
Yes.
So where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I don't know. I'd like to be not in this situation.
So Mick just said that you're aware because you feel bad daily that you're being so it's not making you feel comfortable.
It's so scary. Yeah, that's pretty much it in a sense. Yeah.
So, but you're more comfortable doing nothing.
Yes.
Right. So you become complacent.
Yes.
And when you talk to your therapist and you say these things, he or she says,
she just stares at me.
So maybe you need a new therapist.
I tell her I'm like blah 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 blah. She just.
Yeah, I would think you might need a new therapist.
It's very frustrating. Very, very frustrating.
So what happens, God forbid, your sister dies tomorrow,
I would either go to a homeless shelter or go live with my father.
so you cannot support yourself.
No.
Okay. Do you want to be able to support yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
I do not have insurance.
You do not have insurance.
No.
How are you paying for your meds?
I get it through a special service whereby essentially indigent people get free medication.
So you're not even getting like what's it called?
Disability?
No.
Medicare.
Yeah.
I could show you the medication if you want. If you want to, I can go get it and show it to you.
No. I'm okay. So the therapist that you have that is provided by this group?
It's the county provides me a psychiatrist as part of the program.
Okay.
I meet her like once every 6 months.
Okay, so you don't have a therapist, a talk therapist.
No, I've gone to a talk therapist, but I have a psychiatrist that I see once every 6 months.
How do you feel emotionally right now? And then I'm going to open this up in like 2 seconds.
Right now, quite copacetic, quite content. It's fun. I mean, I'll tell you anything you want.
No, I mean, do you feel so? You feel good about where you are?
I feel as though I'm not living up to my potential. I feel like everyone in this household right now is furious with me.
Why's that?
Everyone, because they are. My niece, who's just left, hasn't spoken to me in years.
How old is she?
21.
Why hasn't she spoken to you?
I don't know. I think she thinks I'm going to hell.
Why do you think that?
Because I don't know. I don't know why she wants me to. I honestly don't know.
You haven't had a conversation with her about it?
No.
Okay, so it's kind of a stressful situation being there a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So it's great that you have a support system, but they are, it's also very challenging to be there.
Yes.
So it's like, and you really don't have anybody to talk to.
Yes. Other than my sister. We talk. But lately, because of Blab, my sister has gotten quite unhappy with me. Which is quite bad.
Why is that?
Because of Blab.
She's upset?
Yep.
Why is that?
Because I spend my time on Blab all the time instead of looking for a job.
Well, you didn't have a job. I mean, Blab just started 20 minutes ago. There's 3
No,
years.
I had a job before this, but I quit because they kept yelling at me.
Okay. So you did have a job in the last 3 years.
Yes.
And it was work, and you could have financially sustained yourself.
No, it was just a part-time job. I was really good. It wasn't paying enough to. It wasn't paying enough for me to get my own apartment. Let's put it that way.
Okay. So I'm going to open up the floor, and we'll talk about wherever this goes.
Okay, let's see what happens. Let's see if anybody has anything.
I don't want to. What I can't have though, because it's on the record, is just like a bunch of people talking over each other. So there's just going to be a little bit of control over like how people speak. It's like, okay, back to you, Dick. So what were people yelling at you about at work? I mean, I get yelled at all the time at work.
Oh, it was just stupid stuff. What happened was I had to cook hot food. And I was too slow, and somebody came in like, "You're bad, 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 bad." And then I was like, "Okay, thank you, and I will do better." And then they proceeded to write me up again and yell at me again about it. And I was like, "Fuck this, man, I'm out." So I said, I quit.
That makes sense. That's kind of reasonable. And you've had other jobs in the last 3 years other than that?
Not really, because of circumstance. I've been able to that circumstance has ended, but because of circumstance, I have been able to just have my little teaching job and survive.
Okay, so you had some cash behind you or whatever, and you were able to
just a little bit,
just enough to let you not work, and now you're indigent.
I am indigent, yes. I just happen to have a roof over my head because of my sister.
Because she's gracious enough to let you live there.
Yes, and my ideal gig would be working for Blab.
So Rick says he can't get over the fact that you don't do anything. What in the world do you do day in and day out? I would think there's something you could do. I'm not judging. I just think if you applied or tried to do something, that alone would give you some self-worth.
I use Blab all day. That's what I use. That's why I want to work for Blab.
Now, do you think that you're blabbing because this is a place where you can express yourself and people will listen to you?
Yes, if to me it's like going to a bar and being able for free to turn around and talk to the person next to you.
And just tell them all the shit you want. Tell them talk all day long, and now somebody's listening.
Yes, exactly.
You haven't worked. You haven't had interaction. You're kind of, now the world is open to you.
Yes.
I'm going to bring Jay in, and I know you have your 2 cents. That's all you're worth about. So I'm bringing Jay in. So
Hey!
That wasn't you, Shelton. That was totally.
if everybody would tweet this out for me, tell Little Bird. Thank you for telling a Little Bird. Oh, Jay did, because he's going to be on the air now. So he's like, yeah, I'll tell somebody now.
No, I told somebody before I got on the air.
Okay, guys, just don't.
I love you, Alyce. I love you, Alyce. And Shelton, you are the greatest mediator.
So, Jay, have you been here the whole time? Have you heard the story?
I have not been here the whole time. I just got out of the shower a minute ago, but I listened to part of it.
Okay. So what do you understand? And then, give me a 30-second where you're at.
I mean, I only heard is that all you get? You only spoke to Shelton? Or were you talking in general? Okay, yes. So, I mean, I understand where you're at and where you may be coming from, but the reason why I have what I wanted to say really is just basically, any insight or if there's anything that I could provide, or because I can't say I've ever been in that place, but I can say mentally every person maybe has been there. So
no, I have never had a psychotic break from reality.
Okay, then I haven't been there. I mean, never. Yeah, maybe I had a psychotic break from reality. Yes, I have.
Did you hear voices?
In my no.
Okay.
My psychotic break from reality to me is me being just out of high school and not knowing what to do with my life.
Okay, so we're talking about hearing voices that are not your own, telling you to do shit, walking around naked in the city.
No.
No, right?
No.
So not having direction is a little bit different.
But in the same respect, I know in mental illness is completely different, and that's something you don't have control of. In the same respect, you still have control over your mind and your thinking. Yeah, I understand that's every college kid, but I was just using an example. I wasn't saying that was an example.
No, Jay. Yeah, I understand.
I was just saying that's every college kid. Of course, it's every college kid, but I was just saying that was where I was at that point.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So, but
I'm just saying, Jay, I'm envious of you, Jay, because.
So Jay has first world problems, and you're living in Biafra and eating rocks.
Mentally,
right?
perhaps.
Yeah,
mentally, perhaps.
Right. So you're fucking, oh my God, what am I going to do after I graduate college? And, Sheldon is rocking in a corner.
But that's what this is where I wanted the correlation to be. Okay, I understand. Okay, but that's different after college, yes, but I'm just using that as an example. But I was still rocking in the corner because it was still that detrimental to me. So I was rocking in a corner, not knowing what the fuck's going on. Oh, I'm supposed to be married by the time I'm 25 and have kids and have this much money or whatever. So I'm thinking about all these things. So that literally made me a little bit mentally unstable.
Yeah, okay.
So did you talk to people about?
Yeah, I went to my mother sent me to a psychiatrist.
Were you medicated?
I'm diagnosed ADHD. So I mean, ADD. I was ADHD and then ADD as I got older. But I don't take any medication now. But I was medicated when I was younger.
But you're not a mental patient.
No.
Okay. Have you ever been a mental patient? Not literally where you're committed.
No.
Have you ever had anxiety or any depression or anything?
Anxiety, yes. I think that comes with ADD, whatever.
Okay. So what did you want to ask Shelton or say?
Well, yeah, I just wanted to see if I could bring any enlightenment or any 2 cents or anything that I could do.
No, Jay, all I need from you is to be my friend. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here for you, brother. So anything you ever need.
That's all I need. Just by you being my friend.
Yeah, anything personally you need to ask me ever, or anything at all, I'm here for you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Tell me what exactly you're saying. What is that?
Anything on a side note, a personal note that he needs to, talk, if he wants to talk to man, something about, anything at all, just in general, anything. It means anything,
That's all I need. That's all I need.
No.
Thank you.
So him saying that, this is what I have a feeling. You say that, Jay, and you say that, Shelton, and nothing really is going to happen. And
no, they will though. If you come, okay, go ahead, Sheldon.
Because
and now you stutter. Fuck.
Jay, I see Jay on Blab all the time, and I enjoy talking to him, and that is more precious to me than anything else.
I appreciate that. But yeah,
having someone to talk to is
I appreciate that.
Because for a long time I've had no one to talk to because only my sister would talk to me in the household, and I've been like isolated a great deal. So having Blab and having somebody who will like listen to me is very precious.
No, and I understand. And to what Alyce was asking, so you're saying that's never going to happen. This is all just talk. So if you were to come to me, we can't hear you, Alyce. You're muted.
I am muted.
Yeah, I know.
For a second, because I'm actually talking to my children.
Oh my God, you're mothering?
No, I know, it's weird. Everybody call CNN. I'm doing a motherly thing. Breaking news. F Donald Trump. Alyce is talking.
That's insane. All I was just trying to say is that if there's any insight or any, business-wise or any questions, just anything at all, it would be more than my pleasure to, help somebody progress. Yeah, as well as somebody to help me. Yeah. No.
Yes, that's very kind.
My pleasure.
Yeah, Jay, I'm gonna admit that when you first started sharing a little bit about your experiences in college, I jumped in.
It was just an example.
Yeah, I jumped in, and I'm glad that I just listened, because I was expecting you to kind of say, well, I've had depression or I've struggled with anxiety, so I get it, Shelton. And, all you really need to do is X, Y, Z because it worked for me, so it'll work for you. And I think Alyce was asking earlier, how do we deal with, I don't want to say treat or deal with. I myself struggle with mental illness, PTSD. So, but how do we create community and create safe spaces for our friends and family members who are struggling with and have struggled with mental illness? And I think what you just said is really beautiful, Jay, because even what you just said, if you ever need to talk, I'm here for you. If you ever want to just, riff with me,
shoot the shit. Yeah.
That is oftentimes, even that little tiny, olive branch is not extended. Or what I thought you were going to say, which you didn't end up saying. The other thing is people who have experienced at some time in their life sadness, which we all do, or any form of like being down in the dumps, will be like, I get you because I felt down in the dumps once and I was depressed. So really all you need to do is think happy and do some meditation, and that's all you need,
Think happy thoughts.
And it's just like the biggest insult you can give somebody because it's like, oh my gosh.
Right.
You're belittling what they're mentally.
The whole time I didn't think that all I needed to do was think positively, and you are the one who told me to punch my pillow and like burn a letter and like cry it out, and now I get it. Now I've got my solution, and it's such an insult as if it was that easy.
I understand that, Rachel. The problem is not that they're trying to be insulting; is that they really actually think that that's true. So yeah. They're not actually, and I'll tell you a brief story if anybody wants to hear it. Anybody want to hear it?
Of course.
Sure, go for it.
So I was married when I was 23, and he was 7 years older than I was, and something happened where he was able to at some point say to me, "It's raining unicorns," and I'd be like, "Yes, it is. I see that." like totally not understanding what's happening on the real world. Like, and there was a lot of things happening that he did and other people did that were psychologically abusive. And I didn't have a break from reality, but I became extremely, I became agoraphobic and I had extreme anxiety and panic. And I actually didn't leave my house for 6 years because of it, for 6 months. I didn't lie for 7 years. I didn't speak in public, you know, because your judgment gets clouded as to what is appropriate, what isn't appropriate.
Sure.
And so I remember, and this is funny, Sheldon, because you had said something like this, that somebody went, I think it was you, that somebody went away, and that's when you went batshit crazy, right? Was that you that said that?
Oh, Annie Shapiro. That was what precipitated.
Somebody went on vacation, right?
Oh, what happened was this is not what precipitated it. This is part of the campaign against me on the part of Annie Shapiro and this bad person, I won't mention his name, was that she went on vacation and then he made it seem like he had gone to Thailand to be with her.
But that vacation was the breaking point.
That was the road. That was part of the road towards it. Yes.
So, my parents lived in New York. I lived in upstate New York. They went to California on vacation. And that's when I was off the hook. I called them. I said, you need to come here. You need to get me. I'm scared. I was laying on the floor, like not being able to do anything but lay on the floor and do those exercises, you know, where you tense up and then you relax. And I'm trying to like, shh, but I'm reading a, you know, anxiety and phobia worksheet, blah, 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 blah. So I ruined their whole vacation. They come back and they get me literally, and they take me to their house. And this is what happens for 6 months. My mother rubs my head and I'm like 24. And all my friends, and I could go someplace. I could go to my boyfriend's house. I could go to work. And that was it. And so my friends thought I was full of shit. And they're like, but you could go here, and you can't go here, and you can't go to my house. So there's a lot of not understanding. I couldn't get them to understand because it didn't really make sense. So, you know, what you're saying, Rachel, about how people are being, you know, disrespectful, and it's really the fact that they just don't get it. And you know what? I couldn't explain to them that, yeah, I can go to Anthony's house. I don't know why I can't go to your house. I don't know why when I drive over a bridge, I kind of feel like I want to jump off the bridge, but I don't want to hurt myself. I just feel like I kind of think I should. Like, it's really hard to explain when you have that kind of anxiety and that kind of mental patient shit going on, to get someone who doesn't feel like that. It's like explaining the color blue. Like, you'd have to be like Annie Sullivan explaining wah to Helen fucking Keller, and I wouldn't be able to do that. You know what I mean? It's like, you can't explain something to somebody. It's really.
I do agree to a point.
Well, I was just saying, okay, go ahead. Yeah,
I just think that there comes a point with, you know, friends or people in your inner circle or family that have had the opportunity to learn about what's going on. Maybe at the first, you know, when it's first happening, or you're first experiencing, you know, these issues, it can be hard to educate your family or your friends. But once there's been a period of time where they've gotten the opportunity to learn about it and you shared it with them, I do think sometimes the feeling of powerlessness that loved ones of people with mental illness can feel, the feeling of really wanting to make it better and wanting to find a solution, can turn into anger directed at the person with mental illness, or judgment or blame or shame, because the person who's trying to help feels so out of control and so beside themselves watching that, you know, their loved ones suffer, that then that becomes, yeah.
Rachel, does that also happen when somebody gets cancer or somebody gets diabetes, or do you think it's specifically to mental illness?
No, it could happen with both.
It depends. Yeah.
It depends. Yeah, because when you're sick like that, you could fall into mental illness, which I've seen.
No, but I wanted to know if, Rachel, you think that specifically people are more willing to say, you know what, snap the fuck out of it, get your shit together, I'm done having this conversation.
Oh yeah, I will definitely say, for example, there, you know, conditions that society kind of acknowledges as, you know, and things that have physical symptoms, people are much more easier to validate and to not judge for. But obviously mental illness being invisible and being so misunderstood, and there not being a lot of advocacy or awareness around all the different ways that people suffer with mental illness. Yes, I do think more often than not, it can lend itself towards people becoming judgmental, blaming, critical, and yeah, because you're very rarely gonna. I would say there are some physical conditions, people who struggle with thyroid issues, for example, and might have issues with weight and weight loss. Oftentimes, also experience their family and friends being like, I don't know if I really believe that. So, but I do think, yes, mental illness is more likely to have that type of like over cancer. No one's ever going to be like, get over your cancer. Like, no one's going to be like, just think positive and eat, So.
Are you on medication?
Me?
Yes.
No, I'm not.
Why?
Because the majority of my mental illness issues have stemmed from trauma that has happened to me. And so I was on medication in my early 20s for anxiety, but over time, did a lot of treatment and therapy and yeah, chose with my therapist to go medication free.
Okay. And so did you do anything like EMDR or anything like that?
No, okay. I did not.
Okay. So are you cured? Was it situational?
No, I'm not cured, and it runs so.
Are you ever cured though? Like, is everyone anywhere? Yeah.
I don't think the way that I've kind of learned to look at it is that it is something that is always going to be with me. Like, for example, if you have diabetes or certain, something I have to learn how to manage and work with and live with. It's never going to fully go away, but I'm becoming more effective at, being able to recognize when certain things are happening, like, when a panic attack is coming on or some sort of breakdown is coming on, I can sense it ahead of time. Coping skills, exactly. I've got certain safe people in my life who I can go to, who will give me, because the truth is, for what I struggle with, validation is really important, and being heard and loved and supported. And so I know people who are not safe, who are not going to validate, who are going to tell me, like, if I'm feeling suicidal, are going to say, if you really wanted to kill yourself, you would just do it, Rachel. So, like, I don't really, what do you want me to do right now? Those are the people I don't call, right? Because I know.
So you still have severe panic attacks?
Yes.
You still have anxiety?
Yes.
So what do you think?
Sometimes suicidal?
Yeah, not this year.
How?
But
How? Tell me and tell everyone who's listening. Give me like 3 things you do, 3 techniques to manage that. Because I've had panic, and
okay.
I actually did that. No, you know what? I did do the panic without meds, because I was seeing like a social worker kind of person, because that's what she happened to be. And we did like crazy things like, you're driving your own car and you can go as fast as you want.
Yeah.
That's
a good question.
No, I was not in the military. No. Okay. The number one thing I do when I'm having a massive panic attack is take a shower. And sometimes I'll stay in there for a long time. The physical sensation of hot water on my body, or water at all on my body, helps to bring me back to my body and away from, because, when I'm having panic attacks, I'm hyperventilating. I feel, I'm going numb. I feel like I'm dying. And so water and showers is the number one thing.
But let's say, excuse me, Jay, 1 second. Let's say you're at the grocery store.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So if I'm at the grocery store, sometimes, I know it's weird, but it'll be, I do try to focus on physical. Mm-hmm. So like putting my hands or even my face on a very cold surface. Mm-hmm. Like I'll put my face up against whatever, like refrigeration and feel that coldness. But if I'm in a grocery store, I will find a way to leave. I know that I don't want to be in public at that point, so I'll find a way to get out. But in the immediate moment, I will find tactile ways of bringing myself back into the body, because my body is going crazy and then it's making my mind go crazy. So
I have left my groceries in line.
Wow.
Have you done that?
Yeah, totally.
So when you've left your groceries in line and you're in your car and you're like, and you left your groceries, it's not like you're a fucking maniac, right?
Yeah.
Listen, so there are some people that have been commenting that I shouldn't say this and I should be more PC about batshit crazy and mental patient. That, that's, I'm not meaning to be offensive. That's what I say, and that's how I talk, and that's how I'm having an honest conversation about mental illness. I am a mental patient, not that much of a mental patient anymore, because I got my.
It depends on who you ask.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, it totally depends. So if you're offended, I apologize, but I'm not changing my speech. I still believe in the First Amendment, and I'm gonna do that.
We respect that about you, Alyce.
Okay. So, Rachel, you get to your car, and now you're in full-blown panic, and you have to get out of there, but you can't get out of there because you can't drive really at that moment, and you're scared to death, and you feel like you're going to die, but you really know you're not going to die, and it's all fucked up in your head. So but you know it's only going to last in real life for about, I don't know, maybe a couple minutes.
My panic attacks have sometimes lasted like 12, 14 hours. There was one that lasted like all day. It was awful. I called the paramedics.
Where you were at a consistent
panic? Consistent. Yes, it was awful. That was when I was at the height of my panic. I was having daily panic attacks, and there were times when, yes, they would last for hours.
Do you want to share what your PTSD was from?
I have got family domestic violence, but I had some very extremely violent relationships in my early 20s, and so yeah, I had some crazy shit happen.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
So you had abuse within your family. You took that outside when you became an adult, brought it to your adult life. So there's some, I'm out of control, I have bad judgment, those kinds of issues. I can't control, like, things happen to me. I'm not making things happen.
You know, I will say that I was pretty self-aware while these things were happening. At the height of my mental struggles and my emotional struggles, it was, the way I can describe it as the despair, and the word despair is the best word. The anguish, the emotional, just total and full body, soul encompassing pain was,
tell me what that means,
was unbearable. I would cry all day, and I just felt like I could not support, and there's no way to describe it because it was physical, but it was mostly emotional. It was just a crippling despair, hopelessness, and pain.
Tell me what despair means. Like, describe it in a color or in a story. How do you see it in your head?
It hurt to be awake. And there was a physical sensation of pressure and tension in the chest that would cause constant crying. Yes, a feeling of hopelessness. Nothing is ever going to get better. No one is ever going to love me. I'm not a good person. I'm a bad person. Feeling like a burden to the world, feeling like, and ashamed of who I was in the world, and feeling just massive shame at the same time of feeling. And again, I will say this. I'm a white girl from the suburbs of Chicago, came from an upper middle class family, and
wait, you're white?
As white as they come. And feeling also a massive sense of shame over feeling as sad as I did, because I'm an activist, I'm a feminist, knowing that I had so many privileges. And I had so being like, damn, if I have this many privileges and I'm still this in despair, then there's going to never be a solution for me, because the world is this, the fact is, because of racism and the way that the world is set up today, I'm an American citizen, I speak English, I've got it all in a sense, and so it's never going to get better. And why am I crying? Because I don't have a reason to be upset. So there's something wrong with me for even being this massively, crushingly depressed when I shouldn't be this depressed. So it was all of that. It was all of that, suicidal, all that stuff.
So you weren't validating, nobody validating your feelings, and so you didn't earn the right to feel the way you were feeling. There are other people that are worse off than you.
Yes, and also my family, because the original trauma had happened through basically domestic violence that, in a way, would never have ended if I hadn't left the house. Right, that just is my earliest memories up until now. Domestic violence in my home, in my family in general, and because the family enabled it, and everybody was enabling everybody else doing this shit. There was no sense. I was kind of disconnected from reality, because there was no sense of the violence was wrong. No, it was me who was wrong. I was wrong. The violence that was happening was right. Do you know what I'm saying? So that was like gaslighting to the max, like crazy making.
Who was the perpetrator of the violence, and who was the victim?
Principally this is on the record, but whatever. He doesn't blab. My dad. And my mother, my stepmother were victims. And then, you know, the truth is, though, when my parents got divorced and I was very young, you know, and I'm the oldest daughter. Yeah, I'm not trying to be like, oh, woe is me. But yeah, I got most of it. My dad had other children, and he became a better father as he grew older. And I got it. My mom and my stepmother would have left him if he ever touched her. So that was where it got really funneled towards me. And I come from a very Christian family. So the attitude was, honor thy father and mother. It is my father's right and place to discipline us as we see fit. And my family was able to acknowledge that he had abused my mother. I mean, he went to jail for it. But for me, they were not willing to acknowledge that because I was the child and I was meant to obey under any circumstances. And no matter what he did, he was allowed to do it because he's the dad. He's the authority, you know? So that's it.
What was the worst event?
The worst event of that?
Worst event for you with your dad? The one you think that perhaps
triggered
changed you from this is kind of not terrible to holy shit, or was
it's hard to say because there was emotional and physical abuse. The emotional abuse was way worse, in my opinion. I'd rather you beat me than systematically, you know, when you do that to a child and you devalue a child and everything they say and feel from the age of however old up until they graduate. I mean, there's no coming back from that. Like, you know, smash me across the face, but don't consistently tell me that I'm a piece of shit. Like, you know, so,
mentally it's much worse.
When I will say this, when I was in high school, what my dad would do, and this was not physical, but this was the most traumatic to me. And what then ended up being repeated in my adult relationships with men was when I didn't toe the line, according to him, when I wasn't, this is how he would say, a good corporate citizen of the family. When I was being a bad corporate citizen of the family.
That's horrible.
I will say this, I was a pretty clean, like I was good grades. I didn't do drugs. The only thing I was sexually active in high school. So it wasn't like I was like a problem child, but when I was in a good corporate citizen of the family, my dad would throw me out. I was not his daughter anymore. He would not talk to me for months. He badmouthed me to the whole family. He would send me harassing, abusive, you know, call my teachers at school and tell them what a bad girl I was and that they needed to punish me. This was from like 11 up until 18.
Where would he throw you out to?
Because my parents were divorced, so it was easy. There's always someone to take me. It was my mom, you know.
Oh, okay.
And I lived with him simply because that was where my school was and everything. It was in a different town. Well, that repeated process of throwing me out, abandoning me, not talking to me for months or even years, and then bringing me back, and then throwing me out, and then bringing me back. And typically it was precipitated by, it would always be, the throwing out would always happen after some sort of massive violent explosion. Okay. He would throw me down the stairs and have a huge giant thing. And
just
then
let it out.
And then he would say, you did this. You are not fit to be my daughter. And I do not want to talk to you again until you learn how to toe the line. So in the early days when I was younger, Alyce, I would just go back to him and crawl on my hands and knees and be like, Daddy, I'm so sorry. It was my fault. It was all me. And then it wasn't until I was in my 20s that I started to realize, oh, wait, it's not, I carried around this shame that I was the worst person in the world. I was this horrible little piece of shit, Queen of Sheba. Those are my dad's words. And no one would ever love me. And I didn't realize until I was in my 20s that what had been going on in my house with my mother, with my stepmother, with me was pretty classic abuse. I mean, my dad has pretty classic signs of narcissistic personality disorder, and all the shit that he's done is not like unique to him. I've heard hundreds and hundreds of other young women like me, other, you know, wives of men like that. So yeah.
You continue to be in your comfort zone by having relationships with men who are similar.
Yeah, I didn't realize that for a while, but yes.
I mean, hindsight is 20/20, obviously. So when did that cycle of abuse stop for you?
It actually stopped when I met my husband. After, I'd say I probably had about like 10 to 12 maybe really abusive relationships. And I wanted to get out of them, but it was like, yeah, I was irresistibly drawn to this type of personality. My husband is cut from a different cloth. He is kind. He's just a gentle, kind, peaceful soul. He's unlike anything I've ever met. Anybody in my family, so that kind of turned the tide. The truth is, like, I wish I could say that, like, I fixed myself completely. I was in therapy during all of my 20s. I met my husband at the end of my 20s. But, you know, meeting him, there was a period of healing that went through on there too, where I was able to accept what real love is and actually receive unconditional love.
The day before you met your husband, where did you meet him?
I met him in Mexico where I live. So yeah.
You met him in Mexico? You live in Mexico?
I do. So Shelton and I have a little connection there because I also left the country at some of the height of my emotional shit.
Yeah.
So you left the country and you met your husband in Mexico. Where did you meet? Like in a hotel, in a restaurant?
We met at a bar. We did.
You picked him up, being the hooker that you are, and you're like, let's get crazy.
Yep.
Okay, so you meet at a bar, and are you dating someone at the time or no?
No, not at the time, no.
Okay, but he's nice.
Yeah.
That's uncomfortable and boring, I imagine.
Yeah, actually, yeah. My first reaction was, no, this guy isn't for me. Like,
but this isn't that fun.
Yeah.
So how long did you know him before you were like, wait a minute, this doesn't hurt and this is nice and I deserve something? When was that?
Well, the thing is, after a few weeks, this was the thing. We went to the beach. I was on a little girls' weekend with my girls. He was on a boys' weekend with his guys, and we met up at the beach.
How long were you seeing him at the time?
We had been only seeing him for a few weeks. So I went out swimming in the Pacific, and it was a big riptide. Took me out in a riptide, and so it was pretty dangerous. I got back into shore, and I started having a massive panic attack, one that lasts for hours. And sometimes most of my panic attacks have been triggered by random things or stuff like that. Like never like it's never been like something horrible happens to me and then I have a panic attack. It's always random. So I started having this panic attack. And my way, as I said, I either shower or I sing to myself, because singing helps me regulate my breathing. And then if I'm just singing the song, I breathe at the right times instead of like, so I'm singing and I'm walking around and I'm touching things and I'm like putting water on my face, and he's there with me and he's rubbing my back and he's just like totally unfazed. Like he's there.
And like pulling your hair, you're throwing up. And
he's there. And this lasted, we actually drove back 4 hours through the mountains while I had a panic attack. My friends are doing Reiki on me. I'm like pouring bottles of water on my head. This guy's rubbing my back the whole time. When we got out of the car, when we were back home, I was like, okay, I'll never see this guy again. He's never going to call me. Like, I liked him a lot. I was really digging him, but I'm like, all right, okay, so this is this. I just did this and now it's over. And no, he was, he didn't bat an eyelash. He was there. And so he was not afraid of me. He was not thinking I was crazy. He was not like running for the hills. He was just there. So
how long before you married him?
4 years.
Oh, yeah. So a long time.
We kind of went in. He moved to Germany for a while. And while he moved to Germany and had his Germany thing, I had a major breakdown.
Okay.
Went home, did a bunch of intensive therapy. So I needed to do some shit. The truth is, like, if we had gotten together then, it wouldn't have worked because I still had some work to do on myself and some therapy to do. So, yeah.
So today, you still have the same issues, but you've learned to manage them?
Yeah, I'm learning to manage them. They're not as extreme as they used to be. I used to be crippled for days on end with what I described as despair and panic and just massive self-loathing. And no, that doesn't happen anymore. So, but I just like Shelton said, the truth is that I feel as though it's always, in a sense, around the corner, in that I don't believe that it ever, and bipolar is a lot different than PTSD. So it's not like I want to put them apples and apples against each other, but I also do feel like there isn't a cure, and I'm not looking for a cure. And I need to be kind of like centered and practicing my mindfulness and paying attention to my body. Because if I don't, could I have another breakdown one day if something, really triggered me? Yeah, I could.
There is and you certainly don't have to listen to anything I say, but there is a thing, I mentioned it before. It's called EMDR. I Googled it because I only know what it is. And it's, fucking Siri, I fucking hate her. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And it was started for vets. And I had sexual abuse when I was young, and it's something that's like a loop in your head. It's like a movie, and it's something PTSD is embedded in your memory. It's like part of who you are. And what this does is it's not medicine. It's Google it so you understand what it is.
I Googled it, yeah.
And literally what happens is, so I went 3 times and it was really hard. And it was crazy. It was weird. And on the 4th time, you're supposed to like say things that correspond, and however they do it. However they do it doesn't really matter. And the 4th time went, the 4th week, she said, okay, now start. Now tell me what you see. And I said, I don't see anything. I mean, I don't see anything. EMDR. I don't feel anything. I don't see anything. I don't even see any words like to describe the bad feeling. I just don't. I mean, it was like, I said, there's nothing there. And she said, well, you're cured. And I cried. And honestly, it was as if, and I know that because I can totally relate to your situation. And I was done. I no longer felt like cutting, because I was a cutter. Can you guys hear me?
Mm. Listen.
Okay. So I was a cutter. I was, I did everything that you could do to self-destruct. I was, I was a very bad kid, and I did just bad things. I wasn't a good person. I wasn't good to myself. I was always self-defeating. And so when she said, and it was such a crazy thing. So when I stood up and I hugged her, and honestly, it was over. And to this day, so I was molested from 9 to 11 by a guy who was about 25. So, and it was almost as if I know it happened, but it's now not part of my DNA anymore. It's not part of who I am. It's gone.
EMDR.
After I did the EMDR, it's a very specific thing for people with post-traumatic stress. And I'm like, this is fucking bullshit. I mean, honestly, I've been in therapy since I was like maybe 13. Mm. I've been medicated. I've been this and that. And it just stopped. And I also have like, like obsessive compulsive thinking, where you're like, it's like hearing a song in your head you can't get rid of, but it could be like the last thing you say. Let's say you say, the sky is blue. So I hear in my head, the sky is blue, the sky is blue, the sky is blue. And it's fucking annoying. And it's like, so, and then something else will be said. It's like, just actually, it's really quite aggravating.
I've never heard of that before. I've never, ever heard of EMDR before. That's pretty.
Nobody has.
I'll take a look.
Nobody has.
You know what the thing is though, Alyce, and I don't know if this is your experience, so maybe you could tell me. The way I would describe it, and now it's like there, but it's just not as strong, is that the trauma I was carrying with me through every interaction, everything I did all day long was there. And I would meet, like if I meet certain male personalities that triggered me or reminded me of my father, then I was like really in a physical place. I felt myself physically and emotionally like that age again. But it was like talking on Facebook or emailing a client or walking down the street or any of those things, like doing my regular stuff. Every single one of those things somehow would call up or bring me into a place of feel, not necessarily replaying it like a movie in my head, but feeling the sensations that so that's why I'm nervous about something like EMDR. Is I'm like, really though, like it's going to just totally like leave because it's like everywhere I turn, everywhere I look, everywhere I think. It's still there today. It's just not ruling me anymore. It's not, it's not controlling my life anymore like it used to. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just curious about your experience there.
I didn't do EMDR when I was like a mental patient and I was like, holy shit. I did it when somebody mentioned it and I was just done feeling like that. Like I was just done waiting to feel anxious for no reason. I was done waiting, knowing that I would have panic. And I still actually do sometimes where I get that flush and I'm like, fuck. And I'm usually, it does actually happen to me in the supermarket quite often. But it's really embarrassing to leave your shit. So I think it happens there on purpose. So I'm always in a situation where like, I didn't fly for 7 years because I wasn't going to be able to get out. So I didn't fly for 7 years because I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do if I want to get off the plane? I'm not going to be able to get off. But I did find out that if you're on a plane in the US, they can land within 20 minutes anywhere. So I only had to be crazy for I only had to stay not crazy for 20 minutes. That was it. So I'm like, okay, sweet, 20 minutes. I made that 20 minutes, that 20 minutes. And even if I do go fucking nuts and I start screaming, let me out, the worst thing they'll do is land the plane and then I'm out. That's it. Right? But I didn't want to feel like that anymore. It was just so draining. It's exhausting to always have these feelings present. It's just really tiring. So I didn't believe it. And I couldn't actually do it. EMDR, and Joe said that he's familiar, is where you're supposed to look at something like this. And then she talks, and I don't know how it works, but it reprograms your thinking. The looking at it made me so nauseous. I was like, this is not going to work for me. So it's a light bar, exactly. So instead, I used these vibrating things in my hands, and it was like, zzz, 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 and I don't remember. Honestly, it's like it was a while ago. And she would say something. I would have to say a word, and then another word that was associated, another, blah, blah, blah. And I'm telling you, when on that fourth day, I'm not saying I was cured of that event, even though it happened over and over again, wasn't any longer prevalent. It wasn't, there is some, right, like just the crying stopped. There is still some pain that's residual, like a scar. And there are some times where I feel a little bit emotionally uncomfortable if something happens and I'm aware of it. And I'm like, oh, it's not like gone, but it's gone in the sense where, I'm a regular person. I'm not fucking batshit crazy, even though someone doesn't want me to say it, because you really feel like you're fucking, like I'm just fucked and I'm stuck. And I used to go to my counselor and I'd be like, I am so fucked and I am so stuck where I am. I can't get past it. And we could talk about slow down and go to the beach or whatever the fuck you're saying. I don't know what you're talking about, but still it happens anyway. And does it happen less? I remember I was at a girlfriend's house right in the middle of this, and they were all going to a bar, and I didn't want to go. I mean, I really didn't want to go. And my friend Jenna, she's like, go, you'll have fun. I'm like, Jenna, I do not feel well. I called Marlene, my mental patient doctor, and I'm like, Marlene, they want me to go to the bar. I don't want to go. And she's like, then don't go. I said, I don't have to go. She's like, no, you don't have to go. You don't have to do anything. And I felt like I don't have to go. And so, but she was my person that was my puppeteer that was controlling me and allowing me to, like, I would call her and say, what do I do? And she's like, do this or do this, do this. The EMDR, because it was specifically made for vets to stop seeing that trauma over and over again, even if it's subconscious, helped me be able to call my own self. And I was essentially free. And
that is amazing. That is amazing.
It was amazing. It was really crazy. I went home to my I was married at the time, and I came home and I said, it's over. I can't. And I was in my 40s, and I said, I can't remember. Like, I want to remember, but it's gone. Like, I can't see it. I can't feel it. It's not anywhere. It's just gone. And it was so weird. Like, I really tried to I tried to be anxious, and I tried to be scared.
I can't believe that. That's crazy. I got to look this up. I got to read about this.
Read about it. But I actually didn't. And the only reason I really didn't read about it that much is because there was no medicine. So I'm like, what the fuck is the difference? I didn't care.
You know what's interesting is like, I think you've described like not even being able to remember it anymore. Like, it's totally gone. And I think this is where I am at today in my process of healing is my story of violence, my story of abuse, my story of mental illness has become part of my identity in in a good way, in a sense that like it has given me, and basically I see it as it's been a gift, the suffering I've experienced in my life, in the sense of it's given me incredible empathy. And I'm able to empathize with and be compassionate with people around me. And people, you know, I'm just kind of the person that like, when I used to live in Chicago, now I live in Mexico, so it's a little different, but people would just come up to me on the train and start telling me their lives, you know, and telling me their issues. And it was, you know, and I do work a lot with women who are victims of domestic violence as well, or women or girls who are living in homes with domestic violence. So it's like, now I'm in this place of learning how to do what you just described. And not let my abuse and my PTSD and all the things that I've gone through be my identity anymore. Because now it's almost become really safe for me. Like, this is like to be a victim or to be mentally ill, and because it's meant that it's been a bridge in my activism work. It's been a bridge to other women. It's been a bridge to other people, and so it's like I have been realizing in the last year or so, like how there's a part of me almost not letting go of the trauma, because now I took it back and claimed it as, you know, something that I was going to make work for me and work for others, as opposed to being something that just held me down. So it's like, now I'm working on being like, all right, I can do good work and help other women without being so tied to my victim story and so tied to that world. But I will say at the same time, have you ever heard of dialectical behavioral therapy? DBT?
No.
It's not cognitive. It's, you know, dialectical behavioral therapy. That's the only therapy that ever worked for me in my life. And it's all about embracing the both and embracing the fact that I can live a functional, happy at times life, because is the goal for all of us to be happy 100% of the time? Is that really the human experience? I don't think it is. I think the whole rainbow of emotions is part of being human, but where I can be effective and learn how to be happy and learn how to be fulfilled. And at this very same time, it can also be true that I will also feel grief and trauma for the rest of my life. Now, you know what I'm saying? Like, that both of those things can be.
I don't have that.
Damn, so maybe I should just go out do what you did. I mean, like,
I don't have that. And the truth of the matter is, there's 3 stages. There's being a victim, being a survivor, and being a thriver. And when my husband died, I started a company called Gift It Forward, and a lot of it was wrapped around hospice and all this stuff. And the reason that I did a soft launch and then I pulled it was because it was so much about death and his legacy that it was like I was reliving it every fucking day. And I get when you become an advocate, and I understand that, and people whose children are killed become advocates and all that stuff. However, for me, it was keeping me like climbing up a mud hill. Like, it was so ingrained and part of my everyday life, and I still felt it inside, you know, that I needed time to move away from it. So I don't think being an advocate is bad at all. I think it's wonderful. But I think when when what happened to you defines you, that does not define who you are. It is a part of who you are, part of your story, but it's certainly not. I am a survivor of violence. I am a thriver of my life is really your goal. You know, everybody has experiences, and just like you said, Rachel, yours is not worse than Shelton's, is not worse than this. It's your own shit that you carry around. So, you know, you don't have to carry that, I guess is the point. You don't have to struggle through it. And there are ways, and it might not work for you, and it doesn't work for everybody, and that's the truth. But I would continue to look for a way to, I want to say, put it behind you and not have it so prevalent.
Yeah, and
Because
in many ways it has. In many ways it has natural. But it was when I finally like let go of that outcome, because there was a long time where I was like, I just want to be done with the pain. I want the pain away. I want to be happy. I just want to, you know, out, go. And I did hear that, you know, like, why can't you like my mom? I love my mom. My mom's a wonderful woman, but she doesn't get it. She does not get it. So she's an example of someone when I would get really worked up, she would get worked up and be like, why can't you just be happy, Rach? Why can't you just, where was I going with that? But yeah, it was when I started to embrace that maybe trauma was going to be a part of my life forever, that I started to move forward. When I stopped being, because, in the specific therapy that I did was around the idea that there wasn't going to be a magic cure or a magic pill or a magic way, that it wasn't, where did she go?
We lost her. She just probably lost her internet.
I was talking too much. That's my problem.
No. She lost the internet connection. I'll flew back in a second.
Oh, here she is. She's back in the room.
Wow. I kicked myself out. Hey, Shelton, I need you to change.
Yeah, and so
Shelton, hold on one second. Can you change the title?
Yeah. What do you need, Alyce?
I don't know. Alyce, just change. Just take out the word "has," so people can retweet it. Because people asked me to change it, so I tried to change it, but you could tell me 50 times how to do that, and I can't because I'm an idiot.
Alyce is.
Oh, I know. It's in here that I have to change it.
Yeah, in the chat room.
Go ahead,
can change it. Oh, okay.
So,
but it was when I stopped being really attached to the idea that I was going to go to therapy for X amount of months and be healed and be fixed and the idea that that it wasn't, so when I started to really just work on the shit and stop, being like, why can't I just be better? Like I would have an episode, like I'd be really stable for a while. And then over a weekend, I would have a massive breakdown and I would, what's funny is I did do some cutting, but what I did more than cutting was like, I would beat myself in the face when at my worst times. I would hit myself in the face. I would beat myself. I would give myself black eyes. And so I'd be doing really great. I'd be doing really stable. Everything's going well with my job. I'm doing, and then suddenly I'd have a breakdown on a weekend and I would beat myself up.
Sure.
And I would go back to my therapist and be like, okay, so look at me. We haven't done any progress because here I am. I'm still broken. And once I let go of that, knowing that, and the DBT that I did was all about kindness and gentleness to the self, being kind to the self, not judging the self, like this is here right now. And I had that moment and it wasn't, we talked about things about in terms of effective or ineffective and, and at the same time, why was I, at that point when I was hitting myself, I was trying to be effective. I wasn't being, but instead of judging that and being like, look at me, I'm crazy. And why does my husband love me? And why doesn't anybody want to be my friend? Cause look what I just did to myself again. Just focused on, okay. Cause that was just feeding and that was feeding self-loathing, those types of self-talk. So instead being like, all right. And that happened. And I am, being kind and gentle with myself and and all that kind of stuff. Instead of focusing on how can I not do that anymore?
Right.
And how can I get better tomorrow? Focusing on working through and being mindful and being present. That was when I started to make progress instead of, being attached to, I want to be healed tomorrow.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. So you were mitigating the damage that it caused and you were learning how to have coping mechanisms so you could get past, you can go forward. Right. Yeah.
And principally not to take myself deeper into the hole with the judgment of the behaviors I was doing while going into the hole. Cause it was like, it was easier for me to go deeper by being like, and look what I just did to myself, or look what I just see, I do deserve to be abandoned, or I deserve no love, or everyone was right about me, or I'll never be better. I'm crazy. All those things, learning how to like look at those thoughts and then, come back, like leaves in the water, like, okay, where did it go?
Right.
Yeah.
So, just to bring everybody up to speed, I am Alyce is Curious. I'm here with Shelton and Rachel. You don't touch that. I'll beat you. I'm kidding. She knows I'm kidding.
Oh no, I'm not reacting to you. I'm reacting to Joe, but yes. Joe Weber, if you're having a bad day, it is in fact that you're choosing to have a bad day. I disagree 100,000,000,000%.
Hold it. Rachel, hold on a second. Joe, are you willing to come on? Because Joe has a lot of insight and a lot of thoughts on it, so it'd be great. No. Okay, that's cool. So we're talking about mental illness. If you could tell a little bird about it. Honestly, I didn't think it was going to go this long. Thanks. Do You know where there's gum in the kitchen.
Blabs always go much longer than you expect them to.
I know, it's crazy. So Shelton told us his story. Rachel's telling her story. And then we're just having an open and honest conversation about it where there's really not a lot of shame. Well, I think, I'm not embarrassed. But so somebody just said, I tend to hear other perspectives better when they use I statements instead of you statements. What is that? I don't know what that means.
Because so Joe said, if you are having a bad day, it is in fact that you are choosing to have a bad day. And so I think what this is the other Joe, I believe. Yeah. The other Joe is saying is maybe that could be rephrased as, if I'm having a bad day, it is because I am choosing to have a bad day. I'm more comfortable hearing somebody say that than hearing somebody say to me, if you're depressed, it's because you want to be depressed. If you're having a bad day, it's because you want to have a bad day. If you're having a bad life, it's because you want to have a bad life.
I agree with you, Rachel. I mean, when you're depressed, I used to call it the red hots and the blue meanies. It's not. It's out of your control.
Yeah, but don't you agree that you can't? I don't agree with that at all. I don't agree that you can when you're a real mental patient. You can just think happy thoughts, make yourself feel happy, or da 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 da. I don't believe that at all. I believe that it's actually a disconnect. It's actually an issue, not for everybody. I think that some people say that they're depressed, say they have anxiety when they're really just a little stressed and they're a little bit upset, and they probably don't understand it. And Joe says, no one's doing your thinking but you. But that's an outside view of what's happening to someone who honestly cannot control it. Mental illness does not work like that, where you could switch it off.
Yeah.
Can you enlighten us as to what's going on at a chemical level, endorphins, adrenaline? No, honestly, I can't. This is what I know. My grandmother was batshit crazy. My dad. So it's definitely, there's some issue. There's some genetic issue. I was put in a situation where it triggered my, so the abuse came, and that's not really when I was a mental patient. That was, I kind of just was living, and I was being abusive and bad to myself and doing crazy things and not being good to myself. And I actually have a tattoo that says, be good to yourself, on my tramp stamp. But that's just so when I'm doing anal that the guy's like, okay, sweet, I'm being good to myself right now. So there's a double entendre about that. So that's what I'm going to say about that tramp stamp. So
I love it.
You know what? Once I say anal, I actually get crazy. I lost my train of thought.
Alyce, we all know that you don't actually do it. You just like to use the word. We all know. You do not.
Yes, I do. I just don't.
I thought you said you didn't do it.
No, I do it. I don't particularly like it.
Okay.
I take it to the team sometimes. It's not terrible. All right.
I did not know your personal story as well as I thought I did. Okay.
Well, this isn't really personal. This is just part of my story. So,
Rachel has the most expressive face I've ever seen on any one person. She should never ever play poker. Never play poker. Yeah, we can't hear you. You're muted.
I could if I was just like acting, but I feel like it's actually rude. My face is so expressive. It's not on purpose. It's like rude on Blab. Like everyone on Blab is such a good listener, and I'm like, whoa, oh my gosh, woo. I'm like reacting. But I can't help but react to, I feel like what Joe Weber is saying in the comments right now, your emotions grab you, but it's your responsibility to back up, look at what's going on with you, and move to a happier place. That is, for me, one of the worst things you can say to somebody struggling with mental illness.
But it's not.
I think it's like the most invalidating thing that you can say.
Okay, that's only because you're allowing him to invalidate you. He clearly doesn't come from a place of understanding. Okay, he's been through EMDR, but Joe, you're at a different place. It isn't reasonable for somebody who hasn't been through it for you to say, think happy thoughts, think about unicorns, and everything's okay. So the truth of the matter is, Rachel, nobody can invalidate you. Nobody can do that. You allow it to happen, and that's the truth.
That is my dad's favorite phrase in the world. Nobody can make you feel any way. which is how he would react when, as little girls, my sister and I would stand up to ourselves when he was abusing us. So maybe there's a little trigger point for me at those types of suggestions. No one can make you feel any way. It's your responsibility how you feel. Yeah, you might be sad, but you can control yourself and you can focus on happy things. All those things to me, I believe, are coming from a place of somebody saying, well, you know what the reality is, if you're expressing despair, pain, depression to me, your experience of that is untrue, Rachel. That isn't, if you could only just focus on this or just do this, you would be better. That to me is invalidating.
I understand that.
Okay.
But I don't think it's done on purpose to be mean.
Alyce, may I make a suggestion? Maybe we should have some final thoughts, and if no one else jumps in, we should call it a day.
Does anybody else want to jump in while we're talking about it? And Mike said it's not on purpose, and just go on our mental patient way, and everybody could go.
I'm just saying we could go on for hours about this, but if no one else is going to jump in, we should just sort of.
But this is my fucking blab, Shelton.
I know that, but I was making a suggestion.
You're throwing people out of my own party?
No, I'm just making a suggestion. I can make a suggestion, can I?
But so you're bored. Okay, so let's talk about sex.
Well, okay, then change the subject.
No,
go off the record and change the subject.
I don't want to change the subject. This is important. Rachel, for people who there's people that are coming in and out, in and out, in and out.
So what I will say is this, Joe, because I've got to.
You're my manager.
Would be that, as I've. That is like a double invalidation right there as well, because again, and I'm just reacting personally to this. I'm not going to speak for every person who's ever struggled with mental illness, but when you say wanting to validate your inability to try to make changes in your own personal life, that is suggesting that I'm not, that if I am struggling with mental illness and you telling me to just think happy thoughts doesn't make me change, meaning I am in control of my own depression, whatever, that I'm not taking steps, and so I've heard that bullshit over the years from people who think that the therapy I'm doing isn't the right one, or I'm not doing the right steps, or I haven't done it enough, or I need to go into this program, or I need to do that. And again, I just think that once again, that is not a compassionate, empathetic way to approach someone struggling in the mires of a mental illness battle, is saying, just think happy thoughts.
So I have a question. Why do you think that you're right in your way of handling mental illness and Rachel is not? Because that's what it's kind of saying to you, Rachel, right? What you're doing is not right. It's not working. So you do it this way and then it'll work.
Or just the idea, at the end of the day, saying it's your choice to be sad. It's your choice to be anxious. It's your choice to have a mental illness. That is essentially what that idea comes down to. If you would just be responsible for your own mind and turn your thoughts not to mental illness thoughts. It's like, can you just take your mentally ill thoughts and turn those off and go to your mentally sane thoughts? That is just like the most condescending bullshit in the world. I wish it was as easy as just turning a switch on, But
for some people, and I think this is true, some people have something where it's a life event, right? Like something that is fleeting. So let's say somebody dies, okay? And so you go through the grieving process and then you get past it. Whereas some people have a hardwiring issue, or some people have a trauma that turns their life from this, and they were on this road and now they're on this road. So for people who are perhaps in a very situational, one time, this happened, I'm sad, snap out of it, think happy thoughts, might actually be a good thing. Snap out of it, like Cher said.
I gotta not listen to this guy anymore. I'm not reading your comments, Joe Weber. It's just triggering me. Sorry.
No, but Rachel, understand.
Alyce, and I want to know the statistics, and obviously we don't have them, but how often has telling someone, whether it's a situational bout of depression or it's a long-term battle, I want to know whenever it has truly helped someone to heal, when somebody says to them, especially in a chat room, maybe it's like your best friend or something, but somebody has said, you want to feel this way. If you just take responsibility for your thoughts and be happy, you can be. I want to know how much that has actually worked. I mean, I'm speaking from a place of knowing a lot of people who struggle with mental illness, and I've never once in my entire life ever heard a story of somebody who told me, one time somebody just got in my face and said, you choose to be this way, why don't you choose to be a different way? And it cured me. I've never.
Okay, let me ask you this. Then can we separate mental illness from, I'm just having a really shitty week?
Yeah,
Stop. No, right. So there's a difference between, having, this is going to be a stupid fucking analogy because that's how I deal with things. There's a difference between having, well, that's a bad analogy. I always use a metaphor and I'm always so fucking stupid that I have to explain it. It's like a fish.
I need this.
Do you know what? You. Hello. Hi. Presented by Starbucks.
Will it still be here? Will it still perfect?
Yeah. So, my metaphors are always like, so say there's a fish and it's in the ocean and there's a toaster. And I'm like, I don't know where I am. I don't know what's happening. So I think there's a difference between mental illness, like there's a difference between I have terminal cancer or I have a cold. They're totally different. One is I'm sick and I have something. Okay, see, that was a bad fucking.
What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say that mental illness is an illness. Feeling sad is normal.
Sure.
Having upside down.
You're trying to differentiate between the two.
Being sad, angry, happy, mad, jealous.
You say people overuse mental illness like as a daily excuse or something?
No, I'm not judging anybody. I don't care. I'm saying there's either you're a mental patient and you have an illness, or you're in a situation that is making you feel sad, where at some point, maybe you can think happier thoughts and you can reprogram yourself. And you can be like, you know what? He really was a douche. And now I'm not sad anymore. And I'm going to make myself happy. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to fuck the next John I see. And life will go on. So there's definitely a difference between having mental illness and being in a bad place for 5 minutes.
And I think,
you agree?
I think the problem is when the focus is on the outcome. Like if you just change your thoughts, you take responsibility for your life, then you will get better. And I think, I'm lightly reading these comments from Joe, but just, EFT Lindsay just said she's been in both situations where she's felt powerless to change and where she changed her thoughts and it helped. And I'm not saying that it's just like, I'm just sad. I'm just surrendered to it. I can't do anything. I'm a victim of my sadness or my depression or whatever it might be. But maybe taking responsibility is calling the person that you're talking to that at that moment saying, I know right now that I need to be safe. I need to talk to a safe person. So I'm going to take the first step, which is reaching out. Maybe I'm going to take the next step tomorrow, going to my therapist. Maybe the third day, I'm going to take another step by doing meditation. That I'm taking the steps, but that doesn't mean that today and right exactly now in this moment that suddenly that I am no longer depressed. That just by taking responsibility for my actions, that is a magic cure. I'm not trying to say, oh, either you're a victim to your shit or you're not. I'm just saying that you can actively work on change your mindset, and it still is not going to be a magic pill that makes you happy. That is okay.
Rachel, you're amongst friends, and I think that everyone agrees with you. Joe is an outlier, and I would not worry about what he has to say.
No, he is not. You're absolutely incorrect, and I don't want to invalidate.
What do we do?
I don't want to invalidate what Joe is saying. You guys are not.
Okay, I guess what I'm saying is.
Wait. No. You're saying that Joe is a one-off, and Joe is not. Joe is the planet, and Joe's thinking is what keeps people from talking about it. And maybe when Joe reflects on this conversation, or not, I don't know what he's going to do. He's like, well, maybe my experience was a little bit different. And, maybe there is something to it. So Joe, I need Joe here.
Yeah, I mean the world, like you said, he is the world. The world needs Joe, people like Joe, because we wouldn't have anything to talk about if.
His opinion is pretty widely held, I would say. I hear this.
You're wrong, Joe, but it's pretty widely held. No, I'm just
it's not that he is wrong. That's his own personal perception and his own perspective. Sarcastic. Oh, your sarcasm sucks.
Just everyone else picked on it except you.
No, well, it's that Palestinian humor. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it must be the Jewish wall that's just blocking it from.
Guess who paid for that wall? Mexico.
America. America did. Obama did.
So the best we can do is from our own, like Michael said, from our own experience, right? Just like, 305,000 vets have died, so we don't understand that either. We're not, as a society, there's two spectrums. We're not willing to explain to people because we're ashamed, right? In things that are not normal. And people think that they're brilliant and that they have the answer to everybody's ills. Like Jay, he thinks a good Hummer cures all. And
it doesn't? Wait a second.
Well, it does have a lot to do. I mean, a good Hummer goes a long way.
It does go.
No, that's true. And for Shelton, that would take him another decade. He wouldn't even have to work, ever.
Mommy, can I use your computer?
No, absolutely not. So I don't think that Joe's opinion is not right. I don't think Joe is not relevant. I think Joe is exactly the person that should be sitting in the seat, and he won't. And I totally respect that.
Joe, I'll get up if you want to sit down. Take a seat.
Here's what I said. I already asked him.
Why are you scared?
But it's not. But it's not. It's not even that, Eileen. Oh, so Lindsay, do you want to come in? She will work for her clinical depression was fighting inflammation with superpowered nutrition.
Lindsay,
now,
come sit down.
That is insane, right? For me, where I sit, I would never do herbal anything. I would never do any of that crap, right? That would sound crazy to me. But that's because I'm closed to it, right? Just like Joe, well, it's what Joe was saying. He just said it took a long time for him to come to these realizations. And what he's trying to do is, in my thought, not with malice, but with good intention, trying to help you be where he is today.
Absolutely.
But what he doesn't understand,
delivery is lacking in compassion and lacking in awareness. I mean, because the reality is that is an ineffective way of approaching. If you just like scream in someone's face and says, "This is what you need to do," it doesn't work. So I would just say I think a little bit more compassion and empathy could go a long way with Joe's delivery.
Okay, I'm gonna put in. I'm putting a video in the chat. It's my late husband, and it's talking about words hurt, and he was in the hospital doing videos for the kids. It's actually was part of my business about how we can all be nicer to one another. So I'm gonna put it up, and if you want to watch it, it's really very interesting because he talks about how if he were nicer, his life might have been different. And now that he's dying, he kind of laments the fact that maybe he didn't think about how someone else's shoes felt to them, and he wasn't as open or understanding to maybe they're having a bad day or whatever. So it's here if you want to. It's a YouTube video, but he's talking. It's only I don't know how many minutes. It's like he kept him to 2 minutes. He was very specific. He like had a stopwatch in the hospital. He's like, well, I'm coming up on 2 minutes, so I'm going to stop talking now. It's not the greatest audio, but it's a very interesting perspective from somebody who wasn't that kind in that sense, who would not be able to relate or be empathetic. So, and sometimes you might not realize that until you're dying, but it's interesting. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Wow, Joe, that's fucked up. Lindsay, welcome. And I'm gonna step out for like 2 seconds. I'm gonna see if I can. No, never mind. I was gonna say something fucking really stupid, and this is so serious that I can't. But I just want to say something that's funny and lighten the mood, and I can't think of one thing to say.
I don't think we have to be happy all the time. It's okay to be.
We don't. But I'm exhausted right now. Wait, Joe, I'm not listening to your story right now, so hold on. Okay, Lindsay.
Thanks. Yeah, I've been in both situations. I've been deeply depressed where I had absolutely no power to use any multitude of tools that I have, and I've learned a lot of them. And it turns out that it was nutrition for me. And it was after the fact, reading an article, I think I found it in the Field Guide, That's the website, feelguide.com, I think, talking about how for some people, or a recent bit of research has found that for some people, depression is a response to inflammation. And that rang like a gong truth for me, was that I've been taking a whole food supplement for probably about 4 years, no more than that, like 6 years. And I went off it unintentionally for about 5 or 6 weeks. And in the course of that 5 weeks, I spiraled right down into super depression. And I have a ton of tools at my disposal. I have EFT. I'm an EFT practitioner. I know my shit. And yet none of it worked. So, Rachel, I totally get you, where like, if you would just do this, this, and this, then you would feel better. I've had the experience of trying this, this, and this. Believe me, I was trying everything at my disposal because it felt awful to be back in that place. And I got my supplement back, and 2 days into taking it, it was like the fog lifted. So yes, and I do have those experiences. Is it Alyce or Alyce? Sorry.
Alyce.
Alyce, I've had those experiences where I've had a shitty day or a shitty week and I feel crappy, and changing my thoughts has changed that. But I've also had that really powerful experience. It was really only 10 months ago, I guess, that I had that experience of just spiraling. I describe it was like a fog lifting up over, like coming out of the ground, like a stinking, horrible fog that just enveloped me, and it didn't matter what I did.
Was it brought on by anything specific, or was it just spontaneous?
It was brought on by not taking my whole food supplement.
Okay.
So I take a supplement that has 27 different fruits, vegetables, and berries in a concentrated form, and I take that every day. And when I don't take it, I feel not as great, but not taking it for several weeks brought on full-blown depression, to which I was absolutely powerless to overcome.
So for you, that's working.
For me, that's working. And you were off camera when I said that I had read an article where some research has been done. I think it's in a fairly preliminary stage, but linking inflammation to depression. So that makes sense. Fruits and vegetables are the thing that plant phytonutrients are what help us overcome inflammation.
Now, would you agree?
So for me, that was such a powerful confirmation that that is my case. But I would never, ever say to someone, hey, this is the thing that worked for me. You have to do this too. I would, yeah, EMDR might work too. EFT might work. Like I said, I've had both. I've had both experiences where EFT made a huge shift in my life. I was depressed for probably, I don't know, a decade, maybe more. And EFT made a huge shift. But then adding the nutritional thing was the thing that helped me overcome completely. But I would never, ever insist that everybody follow the exact same path that I did. I would never say that this is the formula that worked for me. I did A, B, C, D, E, and F. So therefore, you must also do A, B, C, D, and F. Because what Rachel is saying is that's very invalidating, because we're all different. We are all unique. And we all have things that work for us and things that don't work for us. And I know that Joe is coming from a really great place, because he knows what it feels like to feel crappy, obviously, by his comments. He knows what it feels like to feel absolutely awful. And it sounds like he's on the other side of that. And I've noticed, I'm going to get into really like woo psychology stuff here, but I've noticed for me that if I really observe my behavior, often when I come on really strong like that, I'm trying to rescue someone from something that actually happened to me. And I notice it mostly with my kids, where I'm like, you need to do this, this, and this, because what I'm really doing is projecting my pain of my past on them. And I'm like, no, you can't wear the weird outfit to school. This is a bad example, and I don't really do this, but you can't wear the weird outfit to school because they'll make fun of you. Because what I'm actually in the back of my mind thinking of the time that I was made fun of as a kid, and I'm trying to help protect them.
Right.
from my past reality. And it's not helpful
Right.
to project. I mean, yeah, you can argue that I could be coming from a good place in trying to help my kids avoid being teased or bullied. But really what I'm doing, and what you're saying, Rachel, is so, so true. What I'm doing is I'm invalidating them.
But you can also give them information. Like, for example, you know, I did a lot of drugs, so I talked to my kids about it. And I'm like, it's really not an option. My son, this is funny, and this is how I deal with shit, because social services is going to come to my house one day. I know it. So my son came home in 7th grade and said he was going to join the library club. And I said, are you trying to get your ass kicked? Is that what's happening? You don't want to be popular ever? And you never want to date? That's what's happening right now. And he said to me, well, the truth of the matter is that everybody has to go to the media center, and I get to control what book they can or cannot take. And I get a badge. And I was like, well, that's pretty hot. That's pretty cool. Okay, I totally get it. So I kind of, and I realize most people probably don't speak exactly that way, but I kind of say, you know, my kid dyed his hair blue as well. I'm like, dude, you understand, right, that this could happen. I'm not going to tell you whether you should or shouldn't. I don't really give a shit what your hair color is. But it's, you know, information is not bad. Hearing what Joe is saying, whether
no, information is not bad, but I would argue, Alyce, that you didn't really present that in the form of just giving information. You projected your interpretation of it, that joining the library club was a nerdy bad thing to do. And maybe at his school it wasn't. Maybe the school environment is totally different than what you grew up in.
I mean, I think it's natural. It's a way we relate when we're talking to people to say, oh, you know, I don't think it's always wrong to project. I don't think it's always wrong to draw from personal experience, because that's how we connect with each other. We sit down, we have a conversation. We're like, oh yeah, I understand that. I had an experience with that. Let's talk about it. You know, that's part of dialogue.
It's how we frame our language.
But I do think that, you know, you were talking, Alyce, a while ago about, you know, how do we deal with mental illness? You know, and I think that this is a reflection of how little awareness, oh no, she's gone again. Well, I'll say it anyway. How little awareness there is around mental illness. And so if somebody, for example, has a small connect either in themselves or a family member, oh, my sister's bipolar and she took this medication, so that's what you need to do. And then that is all the information they have on mental illness. Just that, you know, if you have this, you do this. And the reality is what you've shared today as well, Lindsay, is like, you know, you can have mental illness issues related to diet, related to, you know, chemical imbalance. There can be mental illness issues related to trauma, whether, you know, over a long time or being in combat, or you can have mental illness issues for being abused, for, you know, sexual assault, for all of these things. Some of them are chemical, some of them are physical, some of them are a combination of both. Or sorry, some of them are chemical, some of them are, you know, emotional. And I think just educating and being and raising awareness around how mental illness is nuanced. It's not a one size fits all thing. Just because you might take medication doesn't mean it's going to work for me. Just because you might do EMDR doesn't mean it's going to work for me. And I just think, you know, the compassionate approach is not necessarily to say, not to say what has worked for you, because I really love DBT therapy. It's really worked for me. I will share that with my friends, but I'm also not going to be like, you got to do it. And if you don't do it, it's because you don't want to be happy. And you got, you know, like, I think it's like that line between, okay, sharing what worked for you, but also then not becoming accusatory and judgmental towards another person, suggesting that they must not want to really heal if they're not going to take the path that you laid out. And Joe, I just have to say, that's kind of what I interpret from some of your comments, is that if we don't do things, or if I don't do things the way you say that I should, then I must not be serious about my healing, or I must not want to be happy, or I must not have tried enough. So I think, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think we can draw from experience when we're sharing with each other, but also then come back to a place of mental illness is so nuanced. There is no one solution for it, you know?
And I think for me, I can be Joe because I believe that his insistence that this would work comes from his own past of when he was really stuck and he couldn't find something that worked, and then he did, right? And Rachel, I know you get that.
What's the problem with our host? Yeah, I just okay. Alyce, yes, Alyce, I know that Joe is the outside world and so forth and so on. But I guess I want Rachel to feel that she's in a safe place and in that she can say what she wants to say and not feel threatened. That's all. That's what I was trying to express.
Thank you, Shelton. I do.
I don't know how successful I was, but anyway, that's what I was trying.
And that's part of why I wanted to jump on here, because I have both sides. I get what Joe's saying, and I've actually been where Joe's been. I've been that person that's been insistent that, hey, EFT worked for me, it really turned my life around, you should do it too. And I've come to understand that it really is hurtful and unhelpful, and I've reformed the way I approach things. I mean, I'd love to tell everybody about this nutritional thing and say, like, hey, this took me from, like, in an absolute fog where I couldn't see my way left or right through my depression to feeling great again in 2 days, but I'm not going to go around spouting that because I've seen how it hurts. I've been the hurter in that case.
Yeah, I'm not attacking Joe. I'm just making an observation.
No, I'm not attacking Joe.
I guess it's not so much. Let me finish. It's not so much Joe as is Rachel, in the sense that I want Rachel to feel comfortable. And I feel I'm the kind of person as if I were in charge, in which I'm not, I would be very sensitive to my guests feeling comfortable in their discussion.
I feel like I really appreciate that, Shelton, and I was calling out some of these comments from Joe because I think they're so widespread. It's a common experience. I see these comments a lot, that it's important to call them out. And I'm also trying to dialogue with you here, Joe, and say, I honor your story and your experience. I'm not saying that isn't the right way to go about it, and I'm so happy. It relieves my heart to know that has worked for you, and that it has given you healing and peace. So I'm not trying to invalidate your experience or the approach that you took, but I'm also just trying to share, okay, I know that I'm not alone in feeling that when certain comments, like, especially, and Joe, the other Joe has been making great comments about you statements versus I statements. I do think I statements are better for these types of discussions. We're talking about mental illness. It is a tough topic, and a lot of people can get triggered at any point, so all I can say is, for me, I have experienced that sometimes those types of statements can be hurtful, can be ineffective, and not truly be of service to the person that you're talking to. So that's the only thing I want to say. I honor your experience, Joe. I just also feel that sometimes telling people this is the only way, this is what you have to do this, and if you don't want it, you're not serious about recovery. If you want to tell me I'm choosing to be invalidated, fine. If you want to tell me I'm choosing to be triggered, whatever, fine. But it is triggering and it is painful, and I don't think that it is my fault that it's painful to me. And I appreciate your thoughts, Shelton, as well.
Because I can tell, Rachel, that you're a sensitive person, because I'm a sensitive person. And
me too.
Okay, you too as well. And I don't want and you're the most your face is so expressive that when Joe says something that upsets you, I get upset because I'm seeing you and your response. So I don't want you to that's Joe, I'm not picking on you. I'm just trying to make Rachel feel comfortable. That's all.
Thank you. And I am very expressive, and it can be cartoonish. So I'm trying. We're all good, and I think that it's great. I agree with Alyce that what Joe is saying is good. I'm super glad that he has shared these thoughts here, because they are common. It is representative of how a lot of people feel, and it's a valid part of this discussion.
So, Alyce, are you okay? What's the problem?
I'm actually going to jump out. I have to go eat breakfast.
Okay.
As you can see by my beautiful appearance, I just woke up.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. It's nice talking to you.
Glad to join you. Thanks.
And then there were two.
How do I get out of here?
You just yeah.
Well, this would be an interesting Shelton. Going back to your story a little bit. you talked a little bit about stigma around mental illness, and maybe you could share a little bit about what your experience with stigma has been, if you feel comfortable. Because I'm curious. I think
I'm fine. Just there have been a few comments, like somebody in Seoul one time said something. Given your history with mental illness, I thought that was kind of mean. But generally, I kind of either people are, because I try to keep it to myself. Generally, people are they are supportive when they do find out. But I don't want to be that guy that like shakes your hand and says, oh, my name is Shelton Bumgarner and I'm bipolar. Like, I don't want to be that guy. So
it would really help explain so many things about you that it might be a good idea. It might even get you laid, Shelton. I'm telling you right now. It might. It's not a guarantee. I don't know if it's a guarantee. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut the recording down, and I'm going to let somebody else come in. I'm going to open my seat, and someone else can come in.
I can leave.
No, Shelton, you should stay. You're certified.
I'm certified more than one.
We need your perspective. So I would love somebody who, like Joe, who's like, you know what? Think happy thoughts. Get your shit together. Put your big girl pants on and shut the fuck up. You're annoying. I've been listening to you talk about this shit for a decade. Get over it. It's not that big of a deal. Put it behind you. Right? So I'd love somebody to come on who thought that, or have a therapist. If you guys can tweet it out, ask for if anybody's a therapist of any sort, then they can come in and maybe give a better explanation. Will had asked, if I can explain how the brain works. No, I have Google. I can't explain anything. I mean, anything I want to know, I Google. So I'm going to open up this one seat, and then I'll open up my seat. So while I get my hair played with, which is so great. And who wants to jump in? Anybody? Anybody have the balls to sit in the hot seat on being a mental patient? Or having an opinion on it? All right, go ahead. You guys talk while I'm getting this all together.
And I can jump off too, but Shelton, you were talking a little bit about stigma. So
and
if you tell people right away, if you tell people or not, or
I try to avoid telling people as much. I generally don't tell anybody. Like, the only reason why I'm telling you guys is because I've been on the service enough people know me that I feel comfortable telling it. So I thought I would just get it off, just like do it like in one big blur blast, just tell everybody at the same time, and then it'll be a non-issue because people will understand the context of my plight.
So I'm Alyce is Curious, and we were here today talking about mental illness in a really open, honest way, which is nice. There wasn't any screaming, really. I didn't really get enough differing viewpoints on it. I didn't really get a lot of. There's a guy in here, Joe, who really had been through it and come out on the other side, and which was nice. I've been through it. I've come out the other side, which is nice. But I'd like to hear from some people next time that are like, you know what? This is really not real. This is just all in your head, or snap out of it. So I'm going to go off the record now, and then I'm going to let you guys continue your wonderful conversation.